found a way to now become a blue blood when it comes to recruiting. This is a place now where I think the nation's best players, if they're going to play college basketball, at least consider. I'm not saying more than Kentucky or Duke or schools like that, but Florida State is now where Florida was at the end of the Billy Donovan era. You know, one of my great frustrations was that, he was able to do that, and Florida succeeded beyond their wildest dreams for the longest. And they had hit a home run with a coach that had found a way to penetrate what was an exclusive club. You know, that people didn't look at the University of Florida as a destination to go play elite college basketball prior to Billy Donovan. Not really. Lon Kruger had some success, but Billy really changed the way that program was thought of. And I wondered, could we do something like that for our program? Could we get to a place where you're in the running? You got a shot to get the best players in the country. Well, we're there. We've arrived at that spot. Florida State can compete to win titles in the ACC. They can compete to be a Final Four contender year in and year out. And now they are, without question, a destination spot for some of the best college basketball players in the country. And that was shown and showcased again yesterday. So, chew freaking chew. Congratulations to Leonard Hamilton. Congratulations to his great staff. And congratulations to that basketball program and many of the guys that have helped made that possible. His assistants and obviously guys like Chuck Walsh and others. This is a place now where every day you wake up, who knows, the news could be really, really good involving Florida State basketball and the potential of fielding a great team, not just next year, but the year after and the year after and the year after. That's what they've set themselves up to do. And that news no longer shocks you. You know, yesterday happened, and was anybody stunned? Was anybody, shocked to find out that Florida State got more good players?
No, it was a 3 o'clock crystal ball, 3 o'clock announcement. The crystal balls on 24/7 Sports all said Florida State was going to be the destination of choice. And so that's what happened, right on schedule. And then the next thing you know, this is Florida State basketball's luck, though, is you go get somebody like that, a 4-star kid, John Butler, I think his name is.
Yeah, and you get Naheem McLeod later on.
McLeod today, and he had already committed here, and he was hanging around the program, even though he didn't qualify the first time around. So the thought was maybe, just maybe, this is one of the rare occurrences that somebody doesn't make it in, but they will end up still where they initially committed, and Naheem McLeod says yes. Just basketball's luck that the ACC, which was thought to decide next week on football and how it was going to be laid out, the 10+1 model, who they're going to schedule, home and homes, what pods, how's this going to work? They decided to go ahead with it yesterday and have a vote. Go figure.
Which I'm going to touch on.
For football.
I'm going to touch on that in just mere seconds. But basketball has earned our attention. John Butler is who I was alluding to. You're right, Tom, and that's terrible on my part, just assuming everybody knows. But you get the 4-star kid to come in for the class of 2021. He's 7 feet tall. He's top 15 at his position out of Greenville, South Carolina. And as a guy that, most people thought would come here. But, you got a class with a pair of elite scoring guards and McGowan's and Cleveland, and now you bring in Butler and then McLeod. It's just all, stacking up for Florida State to make more runs in the ACC and beyond, obviously in the NCAA tournament. Now, on to the most popular sport, certainly in the region, and not the one that has had the most success, unlike basketball. And that's football. And we are certainly very, very interested in what Mike Norvell and this staff can do because they have our attention. Without question, they have our attention. They came in, they cleaned it up from an organizational standpoint, very buttoned up. They had a message and a central theme that they were selling. Accountability was a big part of that. So already you've seen they've been forced to dismiss a number of players that either didn't buy in or weren't going to be part of the solution. You and I haven't had a chance to talk necessarily about Kalon Laybourne, who's now gone, and another disappointment for Florida State fans everywhere because he was a 5-star kid when he came in. We saw very little of him. There's a great cutback run. There's a return. But really, he was either hurt or not somebody that you could count on or buried on the depth chart or whatever the reason. Now, what you begin to read after the fact is certainly that this was a kid that had some setbacks while he was here from a discipline standpoint. And if you're around that program and you talk to the people associated with that program who cover this program and work with that program for any length of time, this doesn't stun you to find out that have a good day was the final conclusion because he was part of that locker room issue. Now, I don't want to make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but he was a guy that was considered to be part of the problem and not something that if he didn't change who he was or how he thought about things here at Florida State, that he would be shown the door, and he has. Now we know we have a schedule to go along with other obstacles like the locker room and getting buy-in and lack of time together to practice and install what it is you're going to ask them to run and execute. So this season just got tougher with the release of that schedule yesterday. We saw the schedule. I didn't flip out the way that many in the fan base did because, well, it is more difficult. I don't know that it's appreciably more difficult. And one of the things that I would point to there is you kind of have the offset, you welcome Duke into the schedule and Georgia Tech into the schedule. You lose Boston College, who's sorry as hell, and you would have stomped anyhow. It's not like I guess what I would go back to and say about that is there's no real home field advantage for anybody this year. So some of the road games, you'd go, oh, man, we got to go on the road to Notre Dame, which is a big deal. That the addition of Notre Dame and having to play them on the road no doubt strengthens Florida State's schedule in terms of difficulty. But again, it's not like going there in front of a packed house like we did the last time we were there, ill-equipped. We couldn't have played really on the moon, and it wouldn't have mattered. We weren't prepared. We were obviously undisciplined, unfocused, and really weren't sure what we were doing schematically. This will be a different case. Florida State will be prepared. Florida State will know what it is they're running and how it is they're supposed to execute. They just may not be good enough, but they certainly won't be intimidated by fan presence because it looks like maybe 10, 15,000 people are going to be at these games at most.
Yeah, the letter today that I saw the Osceola reported on said, 25% is what they're looking at as the lowest amount of people at Doak. I think that's probably the most amount of people that would be at Doak.
That's a better way to word that, right?
But, yeah, 15, 20,000 people in the stands isn't going to change much of anything in terms of the atmosphere. To me, it's more weather. Who comes here in September and early October, and where do we go in November? Assuming that you play any of these games or all of these games or a portion of these games.
Yeah.
That would make a difference. The Florida Heat to start off the season, and if you got Pitt rolling down here, that's going to make a difference in that game. That's worth 3 points, 6 points, somewhere in there. We thought it would make a difference for Boise State, but we were so ill-prepared ourselves that for the second half last year in the kickoff game.
Well, we couldn't make stops either.
We're on the field for 100 damn plays.
Yeah, it was
something, kidding me.
Something to behold.
Right. You would like to think that we'll be prepared. If this season is going to be played, they got to practice before it. And if there are going to be practices, well, we'd like to think that we run practices quite efficiently here.
I saw the 3 that they did run, Tom, and I saw the 1 in full pads, and that certainly is true. They were organized. They were not practices that wasted their time or their moments, limited as they are, together. I would think that's only going to be bolstered by having even more time to prepare for these practices.
Yeah, to me, you lose a few of the Atlantic opponents because there are no divisions now. Just for simplicity's sake, to the 1,000-foot overview,
well, you
10,000 foot.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. You lose Wake and Boston College,
and
Syracuse. But
wins.
What I would tell you about that is that you gain Georgia Tech, which is a win, and you gain Duke, which is a win. So that's really kind of offset. Where you get hurt is the addition of Notre Dame.
Right. You got Virginia here, and that's one that wouldn't have been on the schedule. That should be a win. I mean, geez, we took them to the fourth quarter, final couple of plays last year with that sorry team as coached as poorly as they were. So come on now.
Yes, there I sat on the 50-yard line watching us attempt to score down there on the 1-yard line, looking completely lost.
Right. You can beat that team, especially here. If the game is earlier in the season, all the more likely that we're going to win that game. It's just that I don't know. I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm saying if we have enough time to be prepared, then it's time to bow up and beat the teams in the Coastal that we're supposed to beat. Because while there are no divisions this year, we play a ton of Coastal teams.
Well,
so
they
muscle
didn't
up
do us
and
any
beat the damn Coastal, will you?
Yeah, they didn't do us any favors by giving us North Carolina. I mean, they basically gave us the best teams in the Coastal. You're going to have to play Miami regardless, but you play them on the road, and then you throw in a North Carolina and a Virginia. That's.
And Pitt, which you were going to play.
You were going to play Pitt anyhow, but you can argue certainly they didn't do us any favors with the Coastal teams that they chose to give us.
Sure.
I mean, that's difficult. You can look at a schedule like North Carolina's, let's say, and go, seem to have taken care of North Carolina. Imagine that. Nothing new here, nothing new under the sun with the ACC, man. And while I would argue that they probably should have better leveraged their efforts to get Notre Dame to join the conference permanently by saying either you join now or screw you, go play William and Mary 6 times, they also are going to get NBC money for those Notre Dame games, and that had to have factored into their decision to be more equitable with Notre Dame.
So, again, there are no divisions. It's top 2 teams in terms of winning percentage in the conference will play for the ACC title game if it happens. And Notre Dame can now be a part of that discussion.
That game will be in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Because, of course, it will. And Notre Dame is splitting the money with us across the board.
Yep.
The NBC money is injected into the conversation. There are more Notre Dame games overall. We're splitting the pie 15 ways. That's how it's going.
Yep.
I wish they do it a little bit differently. Maybe Wake gets $5 and then you split the rest. But that's how they're going to do it.
Tom would burn Wake Forest to the ground, ladies and gentlemen.
What with their enrollment? God.
You would only
How about per capita?
You'd only kill a few hundred people.
Oh, jeez. now we're getting closer to the college football discussion that we don't want to have. But yeah, I look at the schedule and I'm saying to myself, all right, you had a lot of 50-50 games anyway. There are more that are maybe 60-40 the other way.
Yeah.
Bow up and get tough and play these games and win these games. Come on.
Easier said than done. I like the mentality. It's what they should be preaching. It's what they should prepare to do. You're just not any good on the offensive line. So you can bow up and try to be tough and have a different mindset going into these games. But if you can't block people, it really won't matter. And I don't know that they're going to block North Carolina. I don't know that they're going to block Clemson. They're certainly not going to block Miami. They're not going to block Notre Dame. So, they've got plenty of games on here that they're going to lose. And I think the thing is, though, to go into the season with a realistic mindset of how you're judging this staff year one, given circumstances that are unforeseen. Nobody could have predicted this. I mean, I really, in many ways, feel for this guy and his staff. That said, got to hold him accountable, and you have to see real signs that this is a program moving in the right direction, one that's upwardly mobile. It's just that ordinarily it is a straightforward analysis that allows you to have a conversation about they're getting better or worse. And that is, do you win football games? You're going to have to factor in more things than that this year. You're going to have to factor in what's happened beforehand and the lack of depth in key areas, and et cetera.
Yeah, I think the important thing, too, is to see how these things are sequenced. It's great we know the opponents. It's kind of odd. Usually you get the opponents released years in advance because you know your cross-division and how it all goes. But you're releasing the opponents, the home and away, and you don't know how it's going to be sequenced. That matters greatly.
Yes, it does.
And last year, may I point out for the record, as much as I can't stand this damned conference, they did give us the best schedule they possibly could have last year. They really did. They did us a favor. This year, they're trying to prop up North Carolina, not just because North Carolina is who they want to be as a conference, I think. It's because they got a quarterback, they're a TV draw, and they're trying to prop them up as they're ascending. I think that's what the league did there. They tried to do the same for us last year. We were just too poorly prepared and poorly run to take advantage of it.
You remember when that schedule came out, I laughed, and I went on the air and talked about how fortunate we were to have received such a schedule. We obviously did not make strides from year one to year two in the Willie Taggart era.
Moment.
Blip on the radar. It's an understatement. We seem to have spiraled even further into the descent towards hell. But I don't think that will be the case here. I do think this will be a well-organized bunch. I just don't know how good they're going to be. There are a lot of decisions still to make at important positions, like quarterback, for example. So, that will help affect the way you evaluate what you think is a good or bad season.
So let me ask you this. Percentage chance that we played in the fall before this announcement tomorrow. What did you have in your mind? That we play in the fall and we get, 8-10 games done?
So the question to me is that
before this was announced yesterday,
did I think we would play football in the fall?
And if so, what percentage chance would you have assigned to it to give you a confidence interval?
I thought less than 50% chance that we would play football in the fall on time. I thought, if you're asking me September the 5th, are we going to play football? I was going to tell you no, we're not going to play football September the 5th. I had not ruled out the idea that we could play football in late September, maybe even early October. I was for continuing to push these decisions back. I was fine with that. Let's continue to monitor the situation, but not outright, rule it out.
Okay, after this announcement, does it give you any more confidence that these games are going to be played in the time frame that the ACC stressed? Which is September 12th would be the kickoff.
You know what it reveals to me, Tom? And I guess a long-winded answer here to you is yes. I don't think you go about doing this if you're not seriously efforting to play a football season and to do so in a timely fashion. More importantly, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but per our discussion last week, I intimated this on the show. I've been told by several people whom I trust, and I've talked with a lot of people that would be in the know on this, that, listen, man, ESPN is not fooling around when it comes to putting some serious weight, leaning on the athletic directors and presidents of the Atlantic Coast Conference and the Southeastern Conference to play some sort of season. They want their money. They don't get that NFL money that much. When you consider what else.
Yeah.
College football is big-time money for them. Those are networks that they're invested in. They want the damn games to be played. So I think this is probably the result of that. Like, seeing this is born from that. It doesn't mean it'll happen, but you want to be as organized as possible if you're going to make it happen. And one of the ways to do that was to at least lay out a plan for, if this can happen, here's how it's going to happen, and here's your schedule. Let's plan accordingly. They'll sell it, whatever they're going to do, and we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, it's a marketing package is what it is. But to me, I saw a quote yesterday. I think it was Blake James down in Miami. He was some official for the University of Miami that said, the question was, could you put your players in a bubble, do you think, within the campus? And he says, no, I don't think that's feasible. I don't know how you roll out even 20% to 50% of the enrollment on campus and you can execute this. I don't think you can do it. This doesn't change my mind on that at all, the fact that they announced these plans. I almost feel like you have to go to online learning for the student body in order for this to exist, because we're talking about outbreaks, quote unquote, right? Within the college football framework, forget MLB for a second, of like 30 kids on a team. That's considered an outbreak. Well, okay, extrapolate that out to 10,000 kids on campus. You're going to have hundreds and thousands of cases across campuses in the United States, across Power 5 universities, and you have to be willing as a Power 5 commissioner and university president to accept that, to handle it, and then to move forward with college football, and that is going to impact the health of your team as well.
The number one thing they'll be concerned about here, beyond the student athlete, we'd like to say in a perfect world, their number one concern is the student athlete and their health. Don't know if that is or is not true. Certainly they'll pay lip service to it. But lawsuits, that's what they're all scared to death of moving forward, are lawsuits. So there's a lot to consider here. I would just posit for a moment, I don't know that these kids, these football players, are in a worse position. In fact, I would argue maybe they're in a better position to be on a university campus, protected around medical help, doctors, access, all of that they might not have if they were not here. We don't believe that 18 to 22-year-old kids are going to adhere to social distancing rules. We've seen across America with the uptick in percentages of the age groups of people that are testing positive, right?
Yeah.
That they're not. They're not. That and countless other videos proving that they're not. Well, they wouldn't if they weren't here, right? So if they're here and the enrollment is seriously limited at Florida State, which I believe it will be, I believe that most of these campuses are going to go to an online format, and that there will be restrictions on the amount of people that can be here.
Get a representative sample here, just enough so that we can say move forward with sports.
Well, okay, that's a cynical way of saying it, but I also just think they have to do that because of what you've said. I don't think they can have full enrollment here, regardless, right?
You get 30-40% enrollment and expect there not to be cancellations of games.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that they're going to do some sort of, 15, 25% of people that can be here on campus, and they'll divvy it up as we thought. What, freshmen, seniors, everybody else, we'll see you next year? Okay, that's fine. But you, and then in that case, you can kind of isolate your players. You really can. Now, whatever personal decisions they're going to make, they were going to make anyhow, whether they were here or if they were in Miami or Tampa or wherever the hell they're from.
Right.
So you can press upon them for the guy next to you for your chances of playing a season and making yourself known to the NFL and everything else. Let's make sound decisions here. Oh, by the way, you're getting tested three times a week.
Yeah.
We've got you. That's not what would happen if you were home.
Yeah, I'd isolate them. And I know what that opens the door to financially for the NCAA and what it signals, which is these are employees that aren't being paid what they should be
Well, we
paid.
already know the optics of this is terrible, but we've moved well past that.
But I'm saying I would isolate them because I don't think it's going to – if you have 100 kids on a team and you've got enough stories, maybe not the majority, but you've got enough stories of 20 here, 30 here. We don't know how many over here. They're not reporting it, but the word is it's around 50. And then you're going to say, all right, here's 10,000 kids on campus. There's no way. There's no way that can fly because once they get here around Labor Day weekend, which is, just a couple weeks before we kick off on the 12th, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of cases, and that's going to be part of the news cycle. There's no – I just don't know that you could pull it off without isolating the kids within their own campus structure. I don't know how you can do it. I mean, maybe you get some games, but not all of them if you take my meaning.
I would tell you that it's going to be, how we stomach those results and those numbers as a society and as a campus, as a city, et cetera, college football. I also would tell you that it matters.
I don't think you could trust the players if you say, guys, it's serious. Like,
no, they're 18, 19, 20 years old. Yeah, they're not going to do it. I agree, but they're not going to do it at their home base either. So.
Yeah, but if they're student athletes, in theory, then they could be here on campus, get the medical care, and not play until the spring, and have the best of both worlds. If you're going to argue that,
if you think things are going to be better by the spring, I mean, if you forego the opportunity to get your money now, you may not have the opportunity to get any money in the spring.
I think if you see enough first to second round draft pick projections say I'm out no matter what, then what was the point of forcing this thing through during the spring? There's going to be a dearth of live sports anyway, where I think these TV contracts will recoup an awful lot of dollars. I understand there are logistical concerns.
Logistical nightmares.
There's a near logistical imposibility of making it happen now.
But I also think the many concerns that you share right now, that you have right now about numbers and kids' behavior, you're going to have them in the spring too. You're going to have them in the spring too. It's not going to change.
But if you're looking at international developments of either drug treatments or vaccines,
okay, so if you're biding time for the vaccine.
Well, I mean, I think there are enough institutions, and they might not work. I'm willing to concede that. But there are enough institutions out there that are apolitical that are saying, November, December, we might have an answer, and then we might have a rollout by first quarter 2021.
Well, I think what they want to do, though, here is to embark on this path and hope to get, let's say 3-4 games in, and then you got to, let's say we have a problem on our hands, and we got to halt it for a couple of weeks, that they can do that they can stagger the season in such a way that maybe they get 6 to 8 games. And if we're lucky, we'll get them all. Doesn't seem likely. I'm with you on that. But let's just say we do. Let's say we can get 3, 4, 6 games in. You've got something in, even if you have to shut it down for a brief period of time or shut it down permanently for a while, you still are able to recoup some of this and play some football. I think that's what they're looking to do.
If I was going to be the cutthroat guy, I'd say, again, let's just not stand on ceremony here. Let's pull the curtain back and show it what it is. We're going to do online learning, and these kids are going to have a safe campus environment, and it's going to be 100% or 90% online learning.
Tom, they're going to do that. They're going to do that. None of these kids are going to be in a classroom. I guarantee you none of our football players are going to be in a classroom. They're not. They won't take a single class in a classroom.
But I wouldn't even put any other co-eds on campus. Freshmen.
I mean, that's a different discussion altogether.
Well,
but I'm just saying.
We've created the bubble. Here you go.
Yeah, I'm saying that I guarantee you. I mean, I suppose there are some classes that you have to be in, labs and things like that. But other than that, other than labs,
you can make the spring semester your lab semester and just hope.
Yeah.
And then the fall. I mean, are we coming here? Like if I lived in Atlanta or Washington, D.C., and I got into Florida State, real good out-of-state school, and I got here.
Yeah, no, you're not coming here if you got to take online classes.
I'm going to sit here, so
I know that's a different problem about higher education.
Yeah.
That's a different issue that we have altogether with the whole digital academy. This is something we've talked about a lot before. If you're not getting that out of state, universities have a lot to worry about, but I will exclude that conversation right now. That's entirely different. I've had problems all before COVID. I would make snide comments all the time on here about higher education having lost our way, the for-profit system where basically that comes before anything else, and how impossible it is for in-state kids to get into their own universities and all. We've had these greater discussions before, but that really does not adhere, not on this show anyhow, to what we're talking about right now, which is whether or not they can proceed playing football, and I think they're going to obviously endeavor to do so. This is further proof of that. They'll try to make it as safe as possible, and one of the ways that they'll make that safer is that I don't think these football players are going into classrooms. So one of your concerns, I think, is going to be allayed.
I hear that, and I hope so. I hope that's the case, and I think it would be smart policy to make that the mandatory policy. My thing is physical presence of students on campus is intertwined in this whole discussion. It is.
Oh, you're talking about from an optic standpoint?
No, being able to pull it off. I think your chances of pulling it off without an outbreak on campuses across the country and what comes with that, which is the need to shut down, it increases. The more kids you have on campus, the more chance it is that you're going to shut down, right? I think that's got to be fair.
Would you also at least grant that, and I'm not saying you have to agree with it.
Sure. I don't know. It's not about agreeing. It's just about
No, but I'm saying, would you not at least grant this? That one of the things that you're saying is that if there is an outbreak on campus, or if there is a problem where you have 100 kids on a campus test positive, that they got to shut it down.
Yeah.
I think there are people who would say, why? No, you don't.
Yeah, but those people aren't going to be listened to.
Well,
not when it comes to shutting down a campus. I'm sorry. No, if you're and stick with me here real quick. Yeah. I'm not attacking somebody. I'm saying they're not going to be listened to, because if you look at the football program,
right,
100 players, including walk-ons, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say 40 test positive. I don't think they're getting it from the weight room. Do you?
No, they're not. We know that.
Okay. Well, now, instead of 100, put 10,000 kids on campus.
Right.
And you have that same impact for the first couple of weeks. When does that coincide with? September 12th, the kickoff of this season, when you're trying to start this thing. Multiply that times, not weight because their enrollment's so damn small, but multiply that times a number of public institutions.
Power 5 programs. Right.
And you're talking about 40 out of 100. Let's just say it was 20 out of 100.
Yeah.
But you multiply that by 100-fold. You've got real problems, because the numbers say that even though it's a 1% deal, right, for
that's what I was about
outcomes,
to bring up, yes,
or maybe a 5% deal for people who need help at the local health centers, you've got Thagard Health Center overrun with appointments. You've got kids calling out.
Correct.
You've got businesses in town and college town that need to, hazmat their place every day. You're talking about major issues that are going to dominate the headlines, such that ain't nobody playing football. That would be my point. It's not about whether or not somebody's going to be listened to saying that the numbers say the kids are going to be all right. If it's 0.5%, but you've got 10,000 kids on campus, run the numbers.
Yeah.
You have several people in every campus across the country dying.
No, right. Well, I've said that all along, that just statistically speaking, they're going to have to stomach, if they move forward with this plan, however small that percentage is, which is less than 1%, somebody is going to die. A student-athlete is going to get sick and is going to die. Statistically speaking, that is going to happen.
Students in general, yeah. I'm just saying, if you have that happening concurrently across many campuses within Power 5.
Sure, simultaneously, if you saw that, it would be overwhelming. Absolutely.
Whether or not you got people saying it doesn't matter because these kids, by and large, are going to be healthy, well, good luck convincing university presidents and conference commissioners and advertisers of that.
Yeah, and I'm also going back to my lawsuit discussion. Get ready for those to come flying. I mean, I guess you're going to have to sign all kinds of waivers, but we do have to do W's and L's. And it's a far less pressing matter than the matters we were just discussing. But nonetheless, it is one that we champion on the Jeff Cameron Show. And we are not going to let the damn COVID-19 virus get in the way of our W's and L's. And it's next on the Jeff Cameron Show. Games for Less, the only locally owned and operated gaming store in town, has Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used video games and game systems. The future of video gaming is at Games for Less, where they have both the PS4 and Xbox One. It's time to trade in your old systems and elevate your gaming experience now. Games for Less is also your headquarters for the best in retro gaming. Atari 2600, original Nintendo, Super NES, or Sega Genesis, you name it. They got it at Games for Less. Games for Less, the Super Walmart Shopping Center on Appalachian Parkway. Give them a call today at 850-219-3535. That's Games for Less.
Not all law firms are equal, so here's why Fonville Lewis Mesher McConaughey was recently voted Tallahassee's best law firm. First, we only take real cases. If your car was barely bumped and you think you're going to get rich, we're not the firm for you. We limit our practice to serious cases with legitimate claims. Second, we only take cases involving real injuries. If you know you aren't hurt but think you can fool your way into a quick settlement, we're not the firm for you. We encourage our clients to heal up and get better, not sit on the couch and expect a windfall. Third, we don't want clients who are just in it for the money. If the very first thing you think of after getting hurt is calling pound something or other on your cell phone instead of calling 911, we're not the firm for you. Your health should always come first. And finally, we won't blow smoke about a big money outcome just to get your case. Other firms overpromise and underdeliver. Our only promise is that we'll work harder than anyone to get you the best result. Remember, the law firm you have representing you makes all the difference, so don't settle for less. Call Fonville, Lewis, Messer, McConaughey, and let us put our reputation to work for you.
Hey everybody, Jeff Cameron here, and a quick update regarding my return to Orange Theory Fitness. For starters, let me just say this. I am so happy I made the decision to return to OTF. I've felt an improvement not only physically but also with my mental health as well. Orange Theory Fitness has remained, first of all, at 50% capacity since they've reopened, and that assures them the ability to maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet apart for all of their members. Now, all the staff and all the coaches, they wear masks. Orange Theory Fitness has committed themselves to the most stringent safety and sanitation protocols imaginable. Exercise, simply put, helps your immune system. We know this. It's time for you to make a conscious decision to take care of your individual physical health by working out. The emotional and mental benefits, they're tangible. I can assure you, I feel safe, I'm reinvigorated, and I'm attacking my fitness goals more every day. To learn more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Business owners and CEOs, the deadline to apply for the Tallahassee Small Business Executive Program is Friday, July 31st. Designed to help business owners and CEOs think strategically and become more efficient in running their business, this program is presented by the Jim Moran Institute in Florida State University's College of Business. Offered at no cost to the participant, the program meets once a month beginning in August. Apply now at jimmoraninstitute.fsu.edu. That's jimmoraninstitute.fsu.edu.
Oh, God, look at that. Is that guy?
He's dead. That dude's dead.
Man, that's crazy,
That's
man.
why you don't do that. I don't know about you. I'm not on a motorcycle. That's not my thing. That, or I've seen these jet ski guys do flips over each other. This extreme sports stuff is brutal.
Dude, you know, I was in a motorcycle accident when I was 16, man. I cut my foot off.
Whoa. You cut your foot off? You got a
dude.
club foot? Is that a wooden foot?
No,
Good song, and we have to do a segment. But I was looking at odds, the WGC. Man, what a time, what a time. We got the golf kicking ass. We've got Major League Baseball, which, if it continues to be played right now, seems to be kicking ass. I'm enjoying that. And now we welcome back the National Basketball Association. Let's make a run at it. You got the Lakers, you got the Clippers, you got the Bucks. Who you got? Sterile, interesting, weird atmosphere. Athleticism still on display. Teams you thought were contenders to win it all when everything shut down are the same teams you're looking at now with the 22 teams in the bubble in Orlando. Bucks, Lakers, Clippers. After that, you're taking a long shot. Should be interesting. Let's see if this can go off without a hitch. I welcome back the NBA, just as we do with the NHL, with open arms. What a good time. This is a run where you really have to embrace and enjoy. You've got the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, the PGA Tour, all happening simultaneously. There are going to be more games than you know what to do. Tom has already mentioned you're going to have several TVs set up for the weekend, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be a good time. I'm going to need the escape. I'll be honest with you guys listening right now. We'll see about tomorrow's show. I'm attending a funeral for a family member. And so we'll see. That's in the middle of the afternoon. I'd like to maybe do a show early. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm going to be transparent with you there, but we're doing a funeral tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So that's not to bring you down. It's to say this. I'm going to need that escapism. I'm ready for that escapism. And we've got a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, man.
I have a great cooler that insulates ice cubes. I brought it to the beach a few weeks ago, and the same ice I bought when I arrived 3 days later is still in the cooler.
Is that
Good
right?
amount of it. Yeah. And the refrigerator may just be too far away.
It
this
just
weekend.
may be.
I
Just
may
may be.
fill up the damn cooler to save me 5 steps to 10 steps because I am that enthused about how many things are going to be on the TV. It's going to be great.
So we have obviously thoroughly vetted the pros, cons, hypotheticals, and everything else there is to talk about in that first all-time long segment that Tom and I occasionally get into where we just ignore radio breaks and the like, much to the chagrin of those that are traditionalists, but so be it.
On a footnote, that wasn't about what should be. It's about what is from a PR perspective, about trying to pull it off. That's where I'm coming from there. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, no. And, you know, I don't
Not
think...
to relitigate it, sorry.
No, I don't. It's... I'm looking at odds for betting golf, Tom. I'm not letting you bring me down. I'm just looking at other
Well, you ever
stuff.
see Ocean's 13?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the Brad Pitt and Al Pacino scene when he's got the ridiculous mustache.
Right,
He's like,
right.
I'll tell you what you don't want, sir. The front page of Time magazine saying who's to blame, and it's the rubble of your hood. Like, that is the person I'm trying to be. Like, you know what you don't want? You don't want headlines throughout. Let's just bubble the kids. I know what it says about amateur athletics, but we
You
all
don't
know
care.
what the hell that
We
is.
already knew that.
Advance the
right?
cause.
Let's move forward. Hey, you know what I did screw up, though, in doing before we got into our long discussion about everything? I failed to support one of our great sponsors, and that's the Phone Hero hotline that people appear on. I'm sorry, Phone Hero. Won't you please forgive me? Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway, 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com.
I think they're going to bring us W's and L's today. Phone Hero sponsors the W's and L's.
And on that note, shall we? Little W's and L's for that schedule. No particular order. Let's see what we got. Fire it up. L's. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? So it's a different schedule for Florida State. They get to keep Clemson. Yay! Pitt, Louisville, Miami. All the good teams. Our Noles will play Clemson. They will play Pitt, Louisville, Miami, and NC State. They were already scheduled to do so. But they don't play Syracuse. They don't play Boston College and their new head coach. Boy, what a reprieve for BC, right? And they don't play Wake Forest. So you say, well, I don't know, is that a wash? Kind of, right? We add games against Georgia Tech. I like adding a game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech sucks. Feel good about that game. Don't like adding the game against Notre Dame. Don't feel good about that game. That game's at Notre Dame. I'm not really weighing too heavily home or away these days. because I'm not real sure there's going to be anybody there to have an influence on either team, right? Just going to be the ball field, if you will. And I know a football field is not a ball field per se, but that's what you get. Notre Dame. Now, they weren't on the schedule. As a non-conference opponent, they were not on the schedule, and now as an ACC, they weren't supposed to be there, but they're there. Now, we do play North Carolina. Okay, that's a toughie. In fact, if you want to look at what they did with the Coastal, they kind of screwed us a little bit here. We also get Virginia. Okay, I think we can beat Virginia. You do get Duke. That's nice. That should be a win. So, in a weird way, you'd say, all right, Georgia Tech and Duke were added to your schedule, and you should get wins there, and those wins will replace the wins you would have got if you had played Boston College and Wake Forest. Maybe even throw in Syracuse there. Notre Dame is certainly an uptick from Syracuse.
Yeah.
That's where you get hurt there. That's what comes out in the wash.
Yeah, I feel like Notre Dame replaces Boise, road game that,
Right.
Notre Dame's better, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it replaces that, and then you have West Virginia, and that's where North Carolina steps in. And
I think North Carolina's better than West
yes.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that game's here, though? The North Carolina game
is here. He is. Yes. Howell is revisiting Doak Campbell Stadium.
He'll be motivated. There's no doubt there.
He's also good.
My hope is it's still hot as hell in Charlotte, so it doesn't matter as much as it
Yeah.
would for Pitt. But my hope is we play those games against those northern teams like Pitt as well in September. If you schedule them for the early part of the season when the heat index is 102, that would be good for us.
By the way, I just was taking a quick glance at Wake Forest's schedule. They got to be like, what did we do? What they ought to be saying to themselves is Tom Lang set up our schedule, because Wake plays Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, Louisville, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. You get the drift? They told Wake, touch your toes. Touch your toes, Wake Forest.
And Wake says, I still get every cent you get to wear these losses to spend on my enrollment. That's right. I get the same amount as Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame.
But, man, that is sort of will get you some. By the way, Virginia, no easy slate there, although they do get Duke and Boston College and Wake Forest, which is awfully nice, and NC State. But they also get Virginia Tech, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Louisville, and North Carolina. They're in the running for that. Damn, man. What in the world?
The damn man schedule?
Yeah, they're in the damn man schedule. We certainly fall in the damn man schedule. I mean, we do. Florida State's schedule is tougher than the one we saw laid out before it prior to this. Now, big picture. We got to do W's and L's. We're about to hit the button, and I'm excited about it. But I would say, again, that to me, I'm gauging progress above and beyond whether you win a football game or lose a football game. It matters. It counts. And how you win or lose a football game certainly factors into this. But I want to see, are we a better team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning of the year? Are we disciplined? And I don't care about certain kinds of penalties. Florida State, when they were winning national championships, when the Canes were winning national championships, any number of teams, Florida, when they won with Tebow, these are all teams in the state, dominant as they were, that were penalized, in some cases, more than any other team in the country. There are aggressive mistakes that you make for playing fast and mean. I can live with those. Then there are the kind of penalties you get because you don't know how to get lined up. That's the problem. When you get penalties, pre-snap penalties, because you don't know how to properly align yourself, repeatedly negating big plays, well, that makes you an a-hole. That makes you poorly coached, and that makes you look like a buffoon, which is what we looked like under Willie Taggart. Difference, see? Penalties are penalties, but they're not. They're not the same. So what I'm going to be looking at instead is technique. Do we know what we're doing? Do we have a game plan? Are we organized? Do we get lined up properly? And can we execute what they're being asked to do? Are kids put in a position to succeed time and again? May not succeed. May not be good enough. Maybe we can't block the guy across from us. It'll affect wins and losses, but it's a different way of evaluating. Here we go. Are you ready? Duke, win.
Yep.
Louisville, win.
Might be one of the games of the year. I think we win it, though. We were undefeated against Louisville with Willie Taggart as a head coach.
I've got us winning that game 27-26, Tom.
Ooh.
Great game.
Did we kick at the end?
We did. We kicked a long field goal and shocked the nation.
Who the hell kicked it?
It's good, right down the heart.
Papuchas himself.
Can't believe it went in. That's so exciting. Good for that young man. He's just endeared himself to the Florida State faithful. Miami, loss.
Sorry, yeah, that's my.
You were daydreaming
my line.
about the kick?
I was. I
Yeah,
was like,
I
wow,
got
it'd be
you.
nice to have a good kicker again.
Yeah.
Loss, yeah.
NC State win.
Should be.
We're 3-1.
Yep.
Notre Dame loss.
It's got to be loss, yeah.
3-2. Virginia win.
That's a win. That's here. Come on, guys. Bow up and beat Virginia. Jesus, we're better than them.
I'm going to double down. It's a big 10-point victory for the Noles. Little 31-21 for that ass.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. 4-2. Pitt.
That is
A war.
win.
That's a war. That's a 6-3 special.
Yeah,
That's I don't know.
Did Mastromano make it on campus from Australia? We're going to need that rugby style.
Yeah, I need him. Win 10-9. North Carolina loss.
No, if it's 3rd and 1, and he's going to
kick.
He's going to try the 52-yarder.
Yeah. North Carolina loss.
I'm actually conflicted on this. They've got the better player at quarterback, there's no doubt, no matter who our starter is. Give me the Noles. They lost to Wake last year, for crying out loud.
They sure did. And Appalachian State amongst others. Georgia Tech win. Easy win. Do we, in the loss to Clemson, keep it within 24?
No. Now, Dabo, it matters to him. It matters to set records. He learned from Spurrier what to do in moments like this, and he will do it again.
Okay. So what did we come up with? Loss to Clemson, loss to North Carolina. This is me talking. You can run down yours quickly. Clemson loss, North Carolina loss, Miami loss, Notre Dame loss. Okay, if you're just looking at those 10 games, a little 6-4, I'll take that. If you add Florida, we go 6-5. I'll take that. Not going to piss me off. How we play will matter most. You.
Same as you, except I have the North Carolina game as a win. So 7 wins, that would be monumental.
Woo!
That really would.
Goodness gracious. Now we're cooking with gas. Roll on, Big River. I'm with you.
So that'd be 7-4 with the Florida game, and you would have 6-5. We'd take either as a fan base right now, wouldn't we?
Oh, I think a lot of people would prefer your 7-4 greatly compared to my 6-5. They hear 6-5 and go, "Come on, man!" And I say, "Man, we are garbage these last few years. Garbage."
But you have Samford and West Virginia and whoever we're playing before Florida, right? And that's what got people to 8 or 9 wins. It's about the same, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
With this is not watered down anymore.
No, I'll take it. Again, I want to see how we play. Do you get them? Do you maximize your talent? Do you put kids in a position to succeed? If they bought in, do they execute? They play hard. They don't do dumbass things. Point to the other team's band down 28 all the time.
I think looking at the amount of practice time we have is going to be critical, because that would. You talked about I want to be better at the end of the year than the beginning.
We're going to have to be able to practice in order for that to happen.
If you've got a shortened practice, then we've got to be way more patient.
Oh, well, listen, this is a fluid situation, as they like to say. You got to be malleable with the picks. Who knows? That's what we picked this hour. I don't know what I'm going to pick in the 5 o'clock hour when we do it again, Tom. It changes all
we're
the
doing
time.
it again, aren't
Yeah,
we?
we're going to do it again in the 5 o'clock hour for those on their way home from the commute there, buddy. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Weird first hour. Thanks for enjoying that. I hope you did. It'll be more standard, I think, as we get into hour number 2. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Good to be with you. Hope you're well. Thanks for tuning to us. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free. Always, if you miss anything, go back, get caught up at your leisure. All 3 hours. Apple Podcasts. Go find it. If you're so inclined and you really like the show, let others know. 5-star ratings and sharing. That's how that works. Hello, YouTubers. Emailers, jcs@979espnradio.com. Twitter, @jcameronshow. You can find the show on Spotify, Twitter, all that good stuff. Podcasts, you're good to go. Man, I'm still sitting here reveling in the fact that we've got Major League Baseball, WGC event on the PGA Tour, the return of the NBA. That's right. What a whirlwind we got here, right? Basically qualifying / 4 rounds of grueling playoff basketball. After that, it begins today. And we'll have perhaps late tonight, second half of that game, the evening game, L.A., I believe, versus
L.A.
Yep. L.A. That's a great game.
The hallway series, and now it's the bubble series.
Yeah, that's really, really good, man. We're going to have so much fun with that. 22 teams in the bubble in Orlando. 3 of them, I think you would say, have the best odds to win. Those 3, Bucks, Lakers, Clippers. That's that. That's your big group right there. Anything after that, again, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, with a lot of these things, especially now, what if one of these teams get hit hard? What if we have somebody who has to shut it down and it's a star player? It forever alters your odds. But if they are as currently constructed and given what we have to measure who they were going into this unique situation, meaning we go back and we look at the numbers, we look at the rosters, we look at the success and the failures of the teams that are in said bubble of the regular season prior to shutdown. The 3 best teams in that bubble in Orlando, no doubt, Bucks, Lakers, Clippers. And those would be the title odds. And then from there, if you wanted to venture a guess, you'd start getting into the groups, the title odds. You'd start saying like the Sixers or the Nuggets and the Jazz and the Heat and teams like that. That's where you would go.
Yeah, the Heat have been the trendy pick this week as we're getting closer to tip-off as a dark horse candidate because they match up well with the Bucks. And if you're just looking at, giving yourself a shot, well, if the Heat can beat the best in the East, that would mean that, you could get to the finals much easier than you can if you're betting on the Lakers or the Clippers, right? I mean, so if you're looking for candidate 4, it might be Miami. Maybe the 76ers. I mean, lest we forget, we criticized the Sixers up and down about not being able to get the job done, but it was Kawhi Leonard's shot at the buzzer in a Game 7 situation that rattled home after 3, bounces off the rim. That's what sent them home. It wasn't like they got swept. So they're capable.
Hung on the rim for 25 seconds. Our beloved friend Matthew had to watch as that thing sat there tantalizingly so for minutes at a time.
Like an Adam Wainwright undescribed baseball because it wasn't anything but 83 down the center of
there
home
it is.
plate.
Look at that. On a tee, my man.
You had to watch it. Had to see it.
That's in there for a strike. You'll never see a better pitch to hit in your life. We just lost. Probably summarizes your thought process in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Tim Tebow, your thoughts? You will never see a better pitch to hit.
Jonathan Isaac back for the Magic. That is plus news here, and probably in some ways good news for the Bucks, who have to figure out how to deal with a formidable, lengthy defender. And it's something they'll have to do if they move forward and want to have the success that they are expected to have as the odds-on favorites. So that you get tested a little bit there, right? I mean, you face them in the first round, and you have to solve that dilemma there because Isaac is really good defensively. Every metric shows it. And so that's probably good for the Bucks. I was reading David Thorpe earlier this morning, and he was saying something similar. I wasn't talking with him. I was reading him and thinking about it in my head. As he was breaking down the various series and the various matchups that he thought would be interesting. So I think that's interesting.
I got to be honest, I have no idea what the matchups look like. I just know that games are being played tonight.
You're pumped about that fact.
I am pumped about that fact. But, it's the matchups in hockey that count for me right now because they start Saturday in earnest. And you've got best of 5 play-in series.
Oh,
so I don't know what the
glorious.
NBA format looks like. I don't know if this is a continuation of the regular season or if this is like they're doing the play-in for those wild card spots. I've got to get educated on it. But it's something that I know is going to be in the rotation on television, and I'll figure it out down the line. I would imagine the playoffs start in, like a week or two for them?
So, yeah, you have to go through qualifying and then 4 rounds of best of 7 series to get it done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sweet Jesus, it's difficult. I mean, I look at those teams and we try to figure out the odds, and that's why I went with the simplest of approaches. Hey, can we just identify the 3 teams that everybody are looking at? And you can go by Vegas odds, or you can go by your eyes, or take both into account, as you should. As a gambling or sporting guy or gal, you certainly are going to take both into account. And you start with the Bucks and the Lakers and the Clippers, and then from there, again, a hodgepodge of teams that if everything goes right and they stay healthy and something happens along the way to one of the other favorites, could surprise you. The Heat are on that list, on that short list. The Sixers, aforementioned, are on that list. The Denver Nuggets are on that list for me. That's a good basketball team. So, these are teams that have a chance. From there, you're really looking at a bunch of teams that have no chance. I mean, you're talking about Portland, Indiana, New Orleans, Brooklyn, Memphis, Orlando, Washington, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio. No chance, no chance, no chance, no chance, right? There you go.
Well, that's like New Orleans is almost like the NBA equivalent of drawing a Sharpie on a storm track, like to extend where it could land and say, see, it could be over here. That's how they got New Orleans into the bubble. They're like, what rules do we have to
We have
create?
to find a way to get Zion in this thing.
Because Holy Mount Zion is going to tip off at 6:30 tonight, damn it, and we've got to make sure we maximize our dollars for it.
And let me tell you something, I thank him for it. It's a better product because we're going to get to see him play in meaningful games, and I'm glad they did whatever they had to do, which was bend over backwards to figure out a way to get them in the bubble.
For a week.
Yeah, just get him in there for a week, and who knows, maybe that guy goes nuts and makes things really interesting.
And
I
they
think
make a
it'll
wild
be fun.
card.
Yeah.
Because Zion versus LeBron, and that's what they want.
That's what they want.
I think they're going to call the game to that end. There was one thing about the NBA officiating I found interesting here is typically the home crowd, home field influences what superstars get what calls and when, right? Like Game 6, if it's at Staples, Kobe Bryant in his heyday, LeBron now. They're going to get those calls, those 50-50s. But if it's Game 7 out in Boston, Kevin Garnett was going to get the calls, Paul Pierce. Well, now you're in Orlando all the damn time.
You're in a freaking bubble.
So how are they going to do it? Are they going to call it down the middle?
No, they won't. They'll continue to give the superstars the preferential treatment they've always had.
The home team in quotations gets the calls for that night?
Do you know that the Milwaukee Bucks take 39 threes a game, and their offensive philosophy, which is a lot of fun to watch, is to let everybody get touches and everybody feels free to shoot, and all of them can shoot, and that's what opens the floor for Giannis, and that is a lot of fun, and that is something that I want to see play out in this sprint. This will be really cool because remember, I mean, that's the game's quote-unquote best player, but to take that next big step, it's more than winning an MVP. You got to win in the playoffs.
Sure.
Got to win in the playoffs. You got to win and win big.
Hit some jump shots, too. If he does that,
Well,
then
he
he's
started
going
to
to be
do
the
that.
undisputed best player in the game.
Oh, it won't be close
to
at that
go
point.
along with his explosiveness. Yeah.
Oh, well. It's strength in the paint, man. It's the spinity do with 6 guys draped or 5 guys draped on you and still finding a way to get the ball to the basket. He does it all the time. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, he's developed that shot now to an extent where we'll see if he makes these consistently in pressure-packed moments in the postseason. But when he does that, he's indefensible, so.
Exactly, and that would be his era has arrived if that's the case, and everything's to scale because these guys are bigger. They're way bigger than your other athletes. But it reminds me of watching Dalvin bounce off of linebackers and safeties in college, and you're like, wow, they're terrible tacklers until it happens 3 weeks in a row, and you realize,
oh, he's just strong.
There's something about the density of the way he's constructed that people bounce off of him. That's what LeBron when he's got a full head of steam.
Was it the USF game where we were making fun of them? Was that who it was?
Louisville,
yeah. Oh, that's right. It was Louisville. They got. Oh my God. He. Like 9 guys, and their coach complained about it afterwards.
A noon kickoff that day, and I remember that was another one of those games where he came out for the hammy and went back in. But there was one run along the right-hand sideline heading towards the band where he bounces off like 3 dudes, and you're like, God, this team's terrible.
They refused to tackle.
Defense.
They refused to tackle.
A month later, you're like, that's just what Dalvin does.
We said it on the air. We were like, well, that was I remember we came on and we were talking about, boy, Louisville, really, they're going to have a hard time winning games this year if they can't tackle better than that. And then like 3 weeks later, we went, nobody tackles him the first time they hit him, so that's just normal. Sorry about that, Louisville. He's just stronger than everybody else and dense, thick, tough to bring down, and fast, wicked fast, and really, really aware of his body in a way that would allow you to take yourself in and out of games despite having a pulled freaking hamstring. It's nuts. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Boy, Rob Manfred can't get it right. He was kind of stuck in this situation, but it was also a situation that he, in many ways, invited by botching previous decisions in regards to the Astros and their actions and their players. He basically gave the Astros, as we all know, a get-out-of-jail-free card during the investigation into what they did or did not do regarding the pitch tipping and beating of the trash cans and all that other stuff, cameras, and elaborate cheating schemes that they were uncovered as having done. And because of that, he created further animosity around the league, especially with teams like the Dodgers and others who were directly affected by the Astros' successes on their way to winning World Series. And so there is a resentment throughout the league of the Astros as an organization, the way they're run, their overt cheating, and their ability to have gotten away with it basically unscathed. They are unscathed. Nothing happened to the Astros. Not any of the players who were confirmed to have cheated. Nothing happened to the Astros organization. And that's what led, and I give you the backdrop here, what led to the speculation about this is all pre-COVID, but as we entered spring training, the thought was, online betting services were taking action on the over-under of hit batsmen for the Astros. Were they going to lead the league by this many or that many? It was crazy, the numbers that were being thrown around. Some of them were astronomical, and they were baiting people to bet on things that really were unlikely to happen. You got to be able to play a game of baseball. You just can't hit everybody that comes up. But the Astros, no doubt, were going to be targeted more than most. And it didn't take long, even in this shortened sprint, to have somebody throw at Astros players in an opportune moment. Turns out Joe Kelly did it on a 3-0 pitch, 98 up at the head. Not ideal. My guess is he didn't want to throw at his head. He certainly wanted to hit Bregman. He certainly wanted to hit him in the middle of the back. And I think he probably wanted to hit, even with breaking balls, Correa. I think that the Dodgers in particular are going to throw at the Astros any chance they get. And I think that there are a few other teams who fit that mold. But because they went unscathed, now this is what's going to happen, the Retribution Tour. And we got a glimpse of it. So now you get an 8-game suspension, and Kelly's appealed the ruling. You got Dusty Baker suspended for fined for language more than anything else is what I think that was. And Dave Roberts was suspended for 1 game. But 8 games for Kelly is significant, obviously. And what I found fascinating is if you look throughout the league, Manfred's getting attacked again, and again he's being attacked by the players of Major League Baseball, and he cannot avoid these missteps. It happens every time. And the first thing that came out was many players echoing a similar sentiment, which was, and what do the Astros players deserve? Just snitch and walk free and seem confused as to why everybody's mad? So that is the feeling of many a player on team after team after team after team.
So in watching how this was covered in the morning yesterday before the suspension was handed down, nobody, not on MLB Network, not on Get Up, not anywhere, talking about the suspension possibility for Joe Kelly. Nobody thought it would be a thing. They thought it might be a fine at most, but that the way it was handled on the field by the crew chief and that umpiring crew would lead Major League Baseball towards probably doing nothing, wink, wink, nod, nod, let's move along.
Police themselves.
And let's send a message moving forward for this particular series that we're done here, guys.
Yeah.
We're done.
You had your
no
shot.
more.
Yeah.
You had your shot. That's cool. Move forward. Well, the 8 games come down, and if every game counts for 2.7, if you want to round up, this is 21.6 or a 22-game suspension for Joe Kelly is what this amounts to.
Well, he's going to appeal it, and I think he's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without question. I would suggest he's going to get a couple of games. It's interesting. Marcus Stroman, the Mets. Who is he ready to come back? Can we get moving here with him? What the hell's going on?
Boy, well, you almost sound like me.
I mean, come on.
Yes, I'd sure like that. Instead of Rick Porcello pitching every 5 days.
He's in my fantasy league. I need Marcus to get it together.
So pitching, he's fine. He cannot field his position, and he can't cover the bag.
He tweeted out, MLB siding with protecting a team that openly and knowingly cheated their way to a World Series. He also went on to say that he didn't think Kelly deserved to be suspended at all. I don't know about that. I think you're going to get suspended for throwing 98 ahead, regardless of the reasons for it. I do think you're going to. Pitchers, I would just say this. I'm always blown away. Man, you want to talk about calculated. You hit somebody on a 3-0, or you see guys get hit 2-1 and they'll go away, and then they got you leaning out over the plate. Now they're going to come inside. I mean, when they've thought about it to that extent to set you up so that you're going to wear this.
Was it a setup, or did he get 3-0 and he said, the hell with it? I don't feel like fighting back in the
count.
I
think he set him up. I think he was trying to. I think he wanted to hurt him, which I don't have a problem with. Although I do have a problem with throwing at your head. You can't throw 98 at somebody's head.
Well, he's got control issues, and I don't mean like he didn't try to hit him and that, it's amazing that his control issues. I'm just saying that he might try and hit him in the shoulder blades, but this is the dude who broke his own window. Joe
he
Kelly
says he did. I don't know.
There was a video about that.
Is there?
Yeah, he was. His wife was shooting the video of like, here's what he's doing COVID. Please have him leave my home.
Right.
He missed the spot and hit the window. But he's got control issues, so if he tries to hit you in the numbers, he doesn't have the command. It could end up running at your head.
Yeah, I would argue that a pitcher of that caliber can control, maybe not pinpoint accurately control, but whether he's up or low. I mean, I think when you get that high over the shoulders, and by the way, if you can't, then you can't throw at people. I would just say that you have to take some responsibility. I get it. The Astros cheated and screw them. I'm with you. Baseball, Major League Baseball should have done something about it. But if I want to throw at you because nothing was done and I'm pretty pissed off about it, fine. But if I can't control whether or not I hit your head or your knee, well, then maybe I'm not the guy to throw at you. Somebody else needs to throw at you. You can't miss up at 98 there. You can hit somebody in the middle of the back, hit somebody in the hip, the ass cheek, the thigh. You can hit somebody's shoulder even if you got that kind of control. But if I'm not real sure I can keep it, below the shoulders, I probably don't need to do that. And again, I'm for him trying to throw at Bregman. I am. And I like that baseball has forever policed itself in this way. It's part of that game. People shudder to think. They get so scared. All of a sudden, well, you'll hear people aghast at
our
the
soft society.
Well, I didn't say it. The people are aghast when there are baseball fights. And for years, I've thought, well, that's ridiculous. No, there are fights. Hockey fights exist for a reason, and a necessary reason, in that it prevents further injury. You settle it that way so that sticks do not get involved. You want that kind of policing on the ice. Players will tell you that all the time. That kind of aggression is necessary. I'm not talking about goons. I'm just talking about settling long-running feuds in that manner. Yeah. Protects people over the long term. If you were to outlaw it, you're going to have problems with sticks. People are going to get hit. So in baseball, I mean, I get it. We've done everything we can about the slide into second base, the slide at home. I mean, the taking out of a catcher at home plate, and other measures that were taken back in the 70s where it was ruthless. People, did crazy things. Get rid of that. But beating people's part of it. But you have to keep it below the shoulders. Anyhow, the players are emotional right now. They're still very angry with the Astros. I just come in on this side. I think you do have to suspend him. 8 games isn't necessary, but you set yourself up for these kinds of reactions where there is a further distancing between levels of communication between Rob Manfred and the players that he polices. Around every turn, he botches every decision.
Yeah, I have a feeling, and this would be my argument for Manfred, and I'm just taking the position. Now I'm not believing it. You send the message with the 8-game suspension, knowing that it's going to be appealed down to 2 or 3.
Right.
But you want to send a message about, guys, this ain't the year to do it. Listen,
well, but you already did. That's in the 113-page protocol. You're not allowed to come off the bench. You're not allowed to suspend everybody or fine everybody that was involved that came off the bench, especially those without masks. There, I would send a real message.
Well, they're not following half the protocols anyway.
Start fining them for that.
This is the signal. I think 8's too much, though, because you can't get to 1 from 8. And I think maybe 4 down to 1 would have been sufficient.
Yeah,
You'd have been like, whoa. Okay, yeah, they're not messing around. Okay, 4 games. That's huge. In the scope of 60?
Yeah.
8 is just absurd. Eight's a ridiculous number.
Yeah, it also appears to be arbitrary. Like, that's the problem with all of his decisions. They don't seem well thought out. And I think this adds further evidence to that point. It's just seemingly, one of the frustrations that, and I'll give you an example that hits close to home. One of the frustrations about pay cuts for coaches at FSU is that too seemed arbitrary. How did you come up with the number at 20%, the percentage? How did you come up with that? Was that something you copied that Clemson was going to do, or do you have leadership of your own to provide to the situation? Did you calculate this? That aggravates people. Just saying, I don't say what's wrong or right. I'm just saying that's what aggravates people.
Right. Show me how many jobs you can save for X amount of percent,
Give me a
Y
reason
amount of
for that
percent,
number.
Z amount of percent. Yeah.
And that's, I think, in this case, people look at this and go, well, I mean, you just made that up on the fly. You had no idea. But I would say that if message sending is what you want to do right now in Major League Baseball, well, then get a handle on your guys that are just blowing past the 113-page protocol that you just referenced. I watched again last night. Now, the Pirates got shoved on last night by an all-star pitcher. Woodruff just throwing 98. I mean, he was unbelievable. But I watched that game, well-pitched game, quick game. But I saw at least 4 or 5 instances where some of my players, some of the Brewers players, standing next to each other in a dugout with no mask on, having a conversation. What are we doing? You can't do that. You see these things happening with players high-fiving, all that other stuff, hugging in the dugout after home runs. And in this case, people left the bench area, came out onto the field. They thought there was going to be a fight. I understand you want to protect your guy, so you're going to go out there. Of course, that is directly forbidden in the protocol, right? This is the year you can't do that. But if you're going to do it, because I'm not real sure that's avoidable. I mean, had he hit him and then hit somebody else, there's going to be a fight.
Right.
And I get that.
This is where clandestine Major League Baseball operator T. Lang would reach out to the clubs and say, next year you can do whatever you want. We're not going to – listen, the suspensions next year, they're going to be light.
Yeah.
Understand that. Guys, I'm looking at you. You got to take my word for it.
Yeah, I'm going to let you
I'm not
slide
going to put it in writing, but you got to trust me. I got a discipline czar. We're going to go easy on you next year. But you got to give us this year. You got to give us these 2 months. I'm sorry.
Might it be reminiscent of a certain conversation between a manager and an umpire that we've played over these airwaves many times, in which you would hold your hands to the sky and say, I'm powerless to do anything about it, but my ass is in the jackpot if we don't get through this season, Tom?
Terry, then you talk to me about that. Okay.
You gotta give us a shot.
You know what?
You gotta give us a shot.
Okay, listen to me and let me hear what I'm saying, okay? You get your shot. You had your shot right there in the situation.
Well, why
you
not?
know the situation,
I know
Terry.
it. Why don't we get a shot, Tommy?
Because that makes it worse. Terry, that makes it worse.
I know it. But MLB did nothing to that guy. Nothing.
Okay, that I can't. Terry, I can't control that. You know as well as I do. You know where I stand on the whole situation. But
you're better than that, Tommy. You know that.
Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay? I'm just telling you. You know what? That's you got it.
That's fair. That's fair.
That is a tour de force performance. That wins an Oscar. Are you kidding me?
I love the ump. Oh, Tommy is the best. He's trying so hard to keep the family together.
Tommy couldn't have been from Kenosha, right?
No.
He had to be from Jersey.
It's so perfect.
That makes it worse. That makes it worse. Now, you're escalating the situation, Terry. Come on, Terry. He has to be from the Northeast.
It's my favorite. And okay. That's I love when he says that part, because he's agreeing with him and he wants to yell at him, but what Terry said to him is, perfect. And he's like, okay, yeah.
It's not, you have to exercise patience, Terry. It's, let me hear what I'm saying. The words that are coming out of my mouth.
Never, ever gets old. Still one of my favorites. The sweeping music adds to it perfectly. You're like, somebody's going down. Damn it, they did not rectify the situation. There's more confusion now than ever.
Terry, then you talk to me about that. Okay.
You gotta give us a shot.
You know what?
You gotta give us a shot.
Okay, listen to me and let me hear what I'm saying, okay? You get your shot. You had your shot right there in the situation.
Well, why
you
not?
know the situation,
I know
Terry.
it. Why don't we get a shot, Tommy?
Because that makes it worse. Terry, that makes it worse.
I know it. But MLB did nothing to that guy. Nothing.
Okay, that I can't. Terry, I can't control that. You know as well as I do. You know where I stand on the whole situation. But
you're better than that, Tommy. You know that.
Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay? Okay, I'm just telling you. You know what? That's you got it.
I oddly like peeling. I'm peeling everywhere right now. That my head in particular, my nose, my neck, my shoulders, and I just find it to be fun. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
I like it. I want to peel more. I want to look so odd that people, again, are just repelled as I walk by. They're like, oh, my man's skin is falling off his face, sir. It's. I like it. When I get in the shower, I take the loofah. And by the way, I get the scratchiest loofahs imaginable. They're not comfortable. It's not the kind of loofah that you're like, oh, that's nice on my shoulder.
Yeah, you're scrubbing like Ethan Hawke and Gattaca.
That's correct. Dead skin, I'm coming for you. I grab that loofah and I go after it. And I like to see the results. I mean, I'll probably hurt myself at some point. Scrubbing so hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
picking at it? Are
look
you
at
a
that.
gold member over
Yeah,
here?
here we go.
Oh.
I can't seem to put enough vitamin E and D and everything else that I try to rub on there. I can't seem to put enough on there.
You
to
did
keep it.
SPF Anglo like I've got.
I know you do, but you can only put. I had 70 on, Tom. I had everything you could do. I wore a hat half the time, but what are you gonna do? Now I'm not burned. I'm tan. I look good. You guys can see, but it's just
I think you peel from burning only, though, right?
I don't know. I don't.
That's
Jesus,
true.
I don't think about it. I just think it looks good. 7'3" center Naheem McLeod, who signed with us. You guys remember this is the guy that we watched his footage and we said he's skinny, but he's athletic. He's comfortable in his body. Anyhow, then he had to go to a junior college. Well, he's committed to Florida State yet again. And damn it, man, we are loaded for bear. Congratulations and choo-choo, Leonard Hamilton and the Noles as it continues. Think about what you're going to have. You're going to have 4 guys on the roster over 7 feet tall in 2021, 2022. This really, I'm telling you, I can't fathom how difficult Florida State is going to be to play.
Well, especially, a couple of those guys are able to stretch out and play. They're not just rim protectors that you stuff in the middle of a zone, which we didn't do hardly anyway. But I can remember back to the Solomon Allaby days where he was more of somebody who would kind of gravitate towards the rim and then affect shots. But this group is going to have a couple of players that can stretch out offensively and create all kinds of matchup issues and then give us the shot blocking and rebounding that we were lacking last year. I mean, think about it. 2 years ago, we had how many solutions to rebound the basketball? If somebody got in foul trouble, somebody else came off the bench. We had 4 or 5 real good options, and that was one of the main concerns for this group was who's going to be the one banging along the glass to go get it done. By the end of the year, Patrick Williams was one of those figures, and that's because he could elevate above the rim anytime he wanted to do so.
He was scary is what he was.
But now, lock, stock, and barrel, you're going to have a lot more depth in that regard here for the next 3 to 4 seasons. It looks like those solutions are much more generic than atypical.
Everything we were waiting on in the month of July, all these answers, these yeses or nos for various players that we were kind of curious about, were they going to get a yes from? Were they going to get the allotment of guys that they were after? And we knew, who they were, and we thought, okay, well, this will be fascinating. But for Florida State, the answer has been time and again, yes. And I continue to talk about a roster that presents not just the depth that you want to have to make deep runs and to play the style of basketball that Coach Hamilton has embraced and gotten his players to embrace, but the length to alter. Last year, Roy Williams noted, as he just rolled it out there for his team to get their head kicked in with a group of all-world players that he couldn't coach up. They were talking about trying to reverse the ball, and their big is setting up in the post, and he's calling for the ball, and he's pissed off in the press conference saying, yeah, man, you got to move. They don't let us just reverse the ball. They're not going to let you do that. They're too long. Of course, Louisville and countless other teams noted after the games they played against Florida State, you can't get into your offense because of what Florida State does with their length, how they attempt to affect the passing lanes.
Yeah, they challenge you close to the timeline.
Oh, it's you just can't get set up. Imagine what you're going to be now as athletic and long as they are in the backcourt to go along with, 7-footer after 7-footer after 7-footer after 7-footer that you roll out there, even if they're just stealing minutes, even if they're not high caliber or skilled players in certain cases, you're still altering I don't know what the total number will be. It'll depend on the pace of the game and the shots that each team gets up. But what I would say is the percentage of altered shots that Florida State will have on a nightly basis in the next 2 years, 2-3 years, is going to be the best in the country. If they held that stat, if you could find out the percentage of opposing shots that were altered, that's it, just altered. Florida State would lead. I'm going to guess Florida State would lead the country.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where we did that not too long ago. That was Junkyard Dog 1.0, where you had Bernard James and Kraft and Xavier Gibson and other guys that could help out. You had, stretch hybrid players that were 6'7" or 6'9". This will be, it looks like a combination of the new program to go along with the old. That's what this roster looks like it's being built into. You've got elite combo players and wings, and then you're going to have more trees in the post. And for us in the near term, if we play the season coming up, you've got Balsa, who's entering into year 2, and hopefully the development is there. Did you see the photo of Raekwon Gray this week?
Yeah.
He looks like he's in shape.
Yeah, I was stunned.
I couldn't believe it.
There's a part of me that's kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it. And I was like, okay.
But yeah, it's him at the free throw line, so maybe the shirt's covering up. I don't think so, though. His arms look to be pretty well
it's about
jacked by
time.
his standards.
How long can you go to the sand pits without seeing results, Tom?
I think we're finally starting to see
Jesus.
those results. We got the kid, I think, is out of Canada. It's the group that played Duke in a exhibition game not too long ago for a plug and play. But then looking forward, you've got Butler, who committed a day ago, and then McLeod, who committed today, recommitted to Florida State. You've got solutions short-term and long-term for the post, and that's great because we've got the scoring and the skill.
Florida State, I think the larger conversation, not to get into the weeds about what that roster is going to look like or the starting five, really doesn't matter with Florida State because they utilize so many players in the rotation. I think when you keep talking about the next step and what Florida State's done, I've always been on this show a big picture guy, and I've envisioned a time where this basketball program was a team of significance that made the tournament on a yearly basis and competed to be in the upper half of the ACC, which routinely is the best basketball conference in America. We've seen that vision, and I didn't do anything to cause it. I just dreamt of it and hoped that it could happen. Now we've watched it play out to fruition. We've seen what Leonard Hamilton and his great staff of recruiters and coaches have been able to put together, which is a realization of that dream. They are a team of significance and then some. They are a team that can win the ACC, aforementioned best conference in America, on an annual basis, save for last year. And they are a team that now is talked about in the same breath as some of the elite programs in all of America. So this has happened in a way that goes above and beyond what I had hoped for this program, what I had dreamt of, what I had envisioned in my mind was a program that could finish in the top 6 of the ACC on a semi-annual basis, a team that would make the NCAA tournament every year, a team that was significantly I think at a disadvantage in terms of resources when facing the likes of North Carolina and roll it out there, Roy, or Duke, or Louisville, or Syracuse, as those two programs entered the ACC. I thought, okay, well, in Virginia, obviously, look at the John Paul Jones. I mean, it's an amazing center, what they've invested. So Florida State was going to be significantly hindered in their efforts to annually compete with those kinds of programs solely due to resources and tradition. That was going to be a difficult task. Now they've done that. They've kicked down that door. They have a moniker to go with it. It's great. It's great branding. That does help you. New bloods. So you look at that. Now you see the kids embracing that. They want to be part of this new group that has seized the ACC and kind of really, I think, given pause to all of those in the triangle whom we loathe to think about ways to build your team, because you have to combat Florida State. You have to deal with Florida State's home court advantage. You have to deal with the depth of roster and now a skill and talent and a coaching staff that is getting the most out of these kids and a style of play that appeals to recruits. So Florida State's in a probably this is a renaissance, and it's a glorious period to watch Florida State basketball. I don't know how long they can maintain this, but embrace the hell out of this, guys, because Florida State is a contender to win the ACC for the next 5 years. That's the talent they have. They are a contender to win the ACC for the next half decade, just as they've done the last 5 years. So look at where they are. We now know you don't have to worry about when a season starts, whether or not they're going to make the NCAA tournament. It's a given. Imagine that being an afterthought 5 and 6 years ago, where you just go, well, they're going to make the tournament. I'm not worried about that. It's a matter of whether or not they can get a 2 seed, a 1 seed, a 3 seed, a 4 seed. That's what we've turned our concerns to. Whether or not you get this athlete who's considered a top 25 player at his position in recruiting. You're going up against Kansas and Kentucky and North Carolina. Can you get them? Can you win? And realistically believe that you can, and then do get players of that caliber. That's what's happened at Florida State. And, boy, I'll tell you what, I know we're all concerned about football, rightfully so. I'd love to see it played, but I damn sure better see basketball played because this team is so much fun. They've earned our respect. Now that home court advantage is significant. It is real. The fans come out in droves. You heard him when he was on the show last week, 25 good minutes with Leonard Hamilton we did. He praised at the end of that interview I did with him the fans for their unwavering support, for making this a place that is a terror for other teams to come and play. The record says that. It's not an opinion. We know that to be true. And the best coaches in the league bring it up after every time they lose here, which they do. They come here and they lose. They always lose. And when they come here and they say afterwards, boy, that's as tough a place to play in this country. They may not find another place. Jay Billis, who was wildly skeptical about Florida State's chances for years in the NCAA tournament, and because they weren't a tradition-laden program, because they really didn't have an atmosphere to speak of in his early days of being an analyst for ESPN, he's done a 180. He goes on and vouches for Florida State, the fans, the program, the way it was built, their chances to win the ACC, etc. So I guess I would just say don't take it for granted. Every week we get more good news of this caliber, of this kind, and it involves a man in his 70s changing the way he went about operating the program, recruiting to the program, and what he now never changing the rules of the game, never changing what he stood for, never changing what you were going to have to adhere to if you committed to Florida State, and the sacrifices you were going to have to make, and the discipline you were going to have, and the lessons that were going to be taught. But changing stylistically and changing what he believed to be possible, which is to make a run to the Final Four and maybe win a national championship.
Well, he's gotten to a place that the elite coaches get to, which is you can turn away blue chippers because you've got other blue chippers coming in. And I don't know how long we're going to be there, but we're squarely there right now where, okay, let's look at 4 of the top 10 wings available. All 4 of these guys are interested in us. Not all 10, but 4 of them are. Mm-hmm. 2 of them fit our culture. 2 of them don't. Yep. So let's throw those 2 out. Like they can have that conversation, and it could be that quick. And the crazy thing is that more than just have they earned our respect, they've earned the love of this town. And that's something. There was an effect this year of going to the Civic Center, and it felt like Dick Howser Stadium at the peak of Florida State baseball when I was in school. Buster Posey was there, and those teams were very competitive. Like, that's still there for baseball. There's a love affair with the city and the team. It's almost like a minor league club.
Yeah.
Basketball now has that feeling. It does. More than just the students showing up, and they've been so good since the last, 5 years. I mean, they show up early. They sell out all their allotments, so they're always there, and they give you a baseline energy. But this year it felt like it turned a little bit to where it was more consistent, not just for the Duke game, not just for Louisville rolling in for a matinee game on a Saturday. But there was this passion of people in the stands that it almost feels like it's our own professional team. The atmosphere in that building is a real thing to contend with. And the love affair that the people here in Tallahassee proper have for that team is more real than it's ever been since I've been here. And that's going on 15 years almost now.
It's just so fun, man.
You said it was like that in the late 80s a little bit, right? Late 80s, early 90s?
I wasn't here in the late 80s. Don't date me that bad. Early 90s.
Sorry, that was probably our friend Bill who was here in the late 80s.
Yeah. You did have a run when I first got here, obviously. You're talking about 90, 91, 92. You're seeing a run for the ages for Florida State basketball, comparatively speaking. You can only go back prior to that to the late 70s, obviously, where Florida State competes with UCLA in the national title game.
Right. I just mean going to the building. I mean, as a student, you might have a different perspective because everything's a party. But, I mean, the building itself was
electric.
Right?
It was electric. There was standing room only type stuff going on there, and you'd have to go over there and camp out and all that stuff to get tickets. That was a big to-do. Yes, it was that way early on. But this has surpassed that. I'm here to tell you now, this has surpassed that. This is something that has real staying power. This is something that we now, I think, look at and listen, I've always been fond of saying this. I said this when Coach Bowden was getting frustrated with the media towards the end of his illustrious career, and he would talk about certain accomplishments and things that they had done under his watch, rightfully so, because this program certainly built in his image for for the better part of in terms of top 20 rankings, top 5 rankings, and all that stuff, 25 years. He was remarkable. That kind of consistency earns your respect without question. But at times when he was embittered by the criticism as they began to lose games, he would reference those things as if he was a victim of his own success. And I've maintained you're never a victim of your own success. You set a new standard every time you succeed. What's possible for you and your program every time you surpass the previous barrier is now on the table to be discussed and expected. It's now what you should aspire to do at the very least, right? You don't just stop there. If suddenly you're able to run a 7-minute mile and you don't just stop and say, okay, I'm going to shut it down. You try to run a 6-minute mile and a 5-minute mile, etc. This program now is at a place where, oddly, we can rightfully say, I expect to finish in the top 4 of the ACC, and I expect to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, and anything short of that will be disappointing. That is a remarkable turnaround.
So, yeah, nothing surprises us anymore. I think the last thing left, other than a Final Four appearance and a national title, would be to be number 1 in the top 25 going on a few weeks. Like, that is one more barrier. But now if there's a 6 next to our name, a 3, a 5, a 9.
We're not shocked.
That's not crazy. And now, with these run of commitments in the last week or two, we're top 3 in the country recruiting-wise for the 2021 class. Top 3.
Yeah, you got Villanova up there ahead again. I mean, listen, Kansas, but that's...
We'll end up getting passed by the usual suspects by the end of it, like Duke and Kentucky. But, I mean, we'll be top 5, top 7 by the time this thing is done.
Oh, it's a class that's going to stick. Yeah, it's not going to be... I mean, golly. I'll say this. I never thought there'd be a time, or I certainly didn't expect there would be a time sustained, where I sure hope our football program can be as good as our basketball program. Wouldn't it be great if our football program can aspire to be as good as our basketball program? Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Kind of a Redemption Thursday edition of the program, if you will. At least if you embrace what we saw yesterday, early evening, schedule coming out. If you're going to embrace that and say, all right, going to be played as is, no problems. Let's take a look at the schedule and roll on Big River, which we'll do momentarily. I think if that's where your headspace, mindset, you can do it, Jeff, is, then, I'm with you. I'll do that. I'll play along. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you get to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. But if you do go back, get caught up at your leisure, we'll post all 3 hours wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can go find it there. And we do appreciate those of you who are kind enough and you feel so inclined to do so. Rate 5 stars, share with your friends and others. Certainly helps grow the show and expose the show to more people out there, which benefits us, not going to lie. You can email us if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameron show. Hello, YouTubers. I said YouTubers differently than I normally do. YouTubers.
As in YouTubers, as though you're tubing down a river.
I need to do that soon. That's next on the list.
You enjoy that?
I do. Immensely. Floating cooler of beer.
Yeah.
A big old inner tube.
I don't know how I feel about it. I did kayaking closer to Pensacola a couple months ago on one of those rivers, like the bear paw type experience. I enjoyed the hell out of that. Yeah. That was fun.
I think you'd like the inner tube. How could you not? If you're in an inner tube with people I'm not saying like in the same inner tube.
Right.
But if you're in an inner tube with people you love, say you're there with Jamie and maybe your sister and her husband and people you love to be around, and your nieces and nephews, and you guys are all inner tubing down a river, and you sip a cold one every now and again, and there's no threat of being eaten by an alligator or anything. You're like, okay, yeah, this is good. It's all right. It's kind of fun. Woo.
Right.
It's a little bit like when you like to go on those cool me off rides at Disney World. There's no real fun in going on the damn thing that goes around the entire park.
Mover, yeah.
Right, but people do it. They're like, oh, this is all right. It's relaxing.
I just feel like you're locked into a day's worth of BS in order to pull that off, because you got to drive to the site and then you got to park a certain.
Well, it can't be the
place.
only activity for the day, unless you're going to pull over and do some, maybe some grilling or some picnicking.
Right.
Yeah.
If they've got those things set up.
If it's all set up.
I'd rather go golf and then just relax.
I'm not saying there aren't other activities that I don't prefer to do more, Tom. I'm saying that I can do that and enjoy it. It's okay. It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to do it every weekend. I'm not saying let's make a day trip of it every other Saturday. I'm saying that, hey, I haven't done this in a while. This will be fun. I'll embrace this today. Probably hold me over for another year.
Once every 5 years. Yeah.
No, every time I've done it, I've enjoyed it. Every single time. Have you ever gone whitewater rafting?
Yeah. Yeah.
That does whoop ass.
Colorado River.
That whoops ass.
Yeah, in the mountains. It was a class. What's the biggest one? 5?
I think so.
I did 4.
Those are fun.
It was a ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love at the end when they tell you to get up front. Somebody has to volunteer and you get right up on the, you're going over. It's awesome.
They put my sister volunteer. I could not believe this. This is completely out of character. They asked for volunteers to hop out and then ride the rapid down. It wasn't one of the bad ones. It was one of the easier ones. But you get shot underwater and then just shot out of the water up into the air.
It's glorious.
And she did it. I couldn't believe it.
I did it as a kid. There's a picture of me flying ass over teacup or whatever. I'm flying off. It's awesome. Loved it.
Yeah, the best part of that was you go down a certain part of the Colorado River and you get to see Arizona. You could see over the border, and it's clearly that the rock formations and the color of the rock formations was the border, because you've got the normal summertime Rocky Mountains to your left, which are brownish, and then you've got like the bright Arizona red formations.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That was the best part of the whole thing. Highly recommended.
So, I have really thoroughly enjoyed the reaction from our fan base, the reaction throughout the ACC and throughout college football with the announcement of the ACC schedule and the rearranging of the ACC schedule. It's been fun to, again, imagine these games being played, to evaluate the changes in the schedule, to debate what's tougher, which team got the gift from the ACC, North Carolina always, or who got bent over. Wake. I'd say Florida State schedule is objectively more difficult than it was prior, the prior COVID.
This is what you get, Wake. You get this. For the amount of dollars you get per person enrolled in your
There
school,
you go.
you're going to have to answer for your crimes.
Yeah, Wake got a toughie. Wake got a toughie. So I'll just say that we don't have the most difficult schedule in the conference, but we're amongst the few that do. I do think that it's important also to make sure that we evaluate this not from a standpoint of, I know we want to pretend like football is going to take place in the same way it always has. We'd love our return to the things that we're accustomed to in our lives. We'd love to see that. And ordinarily, here we are on the doorstep of August. And that typically means you're salivating at the idea of football. Typically, you are so engaged and ready to go, and you're really looking at the finer points of your team, the strengths and the weaknesses, the minutia, every aspect of who you are, what will be exposed, as our friend Matthew Leach pointed out last week when he evaluates depth to discuss a season-long projection for baseball. Similarly, you can say that about football, right? Okay, good front line starting here. Anybody gets hurt, we got a real problem there, that kind of thing. So the difference is this time around that even though you look at that schedule and say, well, geez, man, I don't know, Florida State having to go on the road to Notre Dame now. This throws a monkey wrench in the plans here when we're projecting wins and losses. Maybe in terms of the caliber of opponent, Notre Dame is certainly an uptick. It's a more difficult game for Florida State to have to play. But that said, there ain't nobody going to be there. You're not dealing with the fans. There's not going to be anybody there.
If there is
10,000 people, who gives a damn? So these aren't true road games. You see that. And again, I did the same thing. I looked at it and went, oh, man, go on the road to Notre Dame. You do have to travel. So, you account for that, I suppose. But to me, I really think that the difference between playing at home or on the road this year is negligible. So I'm not all that worried about that aspect of it.
And my hope is that 6 of these games take place. That's where I am right now, is how many can you pull off and how soon can you do it? Obviously we know that the start date is September the 12th for the season, at least as it is now. But what do you do with the schedule when you actually lay it out 1 through 11? Is there a bye? Is there enough time for a bye? I think there is. But do you want to put the games that are closer to you regionally first to increase the chances that you can pull off the most in the shortest amount of time? Or do you want to stagger those towards the end, because if you have more strict lockdowns, it'd be easier for you to hop on a bus to go to Georgia Tech or to go to play Clemson at that point. And you want the more aggressive traveling to be done in a time where you feel like you've got a better handle on the process of traveling than you would in a November. I'll be interested to see how they lay that out, because I would think that is going to be a universal concept across the conference of regional first or regional second.
Yeah, they'll have to factor in these things, Tom. I do think there's a certain amount, perhaps some would look at it as hubris. There's a certain amount of hubris involved in this, just announcing the schedule and acting as if everything is okay and we're going to go play football. But in truth, I think the other side of that coin is to say, they're not really all that concerned about travel or playing football. If you're going to endeavor to do this, you've decided that COVID or not, we think it's safer for the student athletes to be here on campus where they can be monitored and have access to great medical care if, in fact, they're going to get sick. And if we're going to move forward and play football, we're really not all that concerned with whether or not you play Notre Dame late or early. The mere fact that we're playing football tells you that we have decided to soldier on in the face of a very difficult, obviously opponent.
Here's what I think. Just as a cynic and a business guy, sometimes that part of me thinks they wanted a head start to go sell spots for their games to other people. They want to give ESPN a head start for doing that. And if they don't carry them through, that's fine. But they wanted to have a product to go push. They want on the local booster level and the local Tallahassee, whoever level to say, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We don't know what weekends they are, but this is our plan. We have a concrete plan moving forward. So now you're not buying air and theory. You're buying our plan.
I don't have a problem with that.
You out?
I don't have a problem with that. I think that in order to move forward and to endeavor to play a season, which they're clearly attempting to do, if you are going to do that, you do have to make plans to sell it. There is a business aspect to football. We know this. And you can't just willy-nilly this thing on into September and not have a cogent plan in place that you lay before your potential advertisers. I think there's nothing wrong with making these plans. Doesn't mean you'll be able to execute it. I'm rooting that they're able to execute it. You are too. We all are. We hope they can do it. You can have your doubts or you can believe they're going to do it. I'm not here for that right now. What I'm saying is, and I don't mean you, I'm just talking about people in general. What I'm saying is it makes more sense that as you hold off on the start of camp and you push things back a little bit here and there, that you at least say, okay, what's it going to look like if we do play? Do we have a plan? Does everybody have a plan on what this is going to look like? Put one together so we now know we've defined our terms. This is what we're doing. You guys were doing this. You will be doing this. Now we'll go forward with a plan in place. I have no problem with that. And you know what? If that means you get advertisers on board and that means you get people excited again, then so be it. I think everybody does so. Everybody would invest emotionally or financially with the understanding that there's a chance it doesn't happen at all.
Well, it's like the first clause of the whole release yesterday was provided that, local health or national health interests are able to be abided by and safety protocols can be followed. Here's what the rest of it is. Here's the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Provided that it's okay.
If we're able to do it, this is how we're going to do it.
The headlines are pretty simple, though. The headlines are Notre Dame is in to the ACC. Now, is this their first step towards permanent membership as an ACC football program? We'll see. But they're splitting the revenue across the board. NBC dollars going to Notre Dame.
That is the only reason that I'm not nearly as incensed as I would have been by them not properly leveraging Notre Dame to join the conference permanently. Here was your chance to say, go play William and Mary 6 times, assholes. Sorry about that. Glad we have the beep. But there was your chance to say that, because guess what? You can't put together a schedule.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Have fun with Akron. But we didn't, and my guess is we didn't because of the NBC dollars that are going to be shared equally.
And you wonder, again, if this is now the new normal. Is Notre Dame going to be a part of the ACC moving forward? I doubt it, but I'd never thought we'd get to this point where they would give up those dollars in order to make it happen. And here was the thing, too. When it was announced that they're looking at a 10+1 last week and that Notre Dame would potentially be involved for all 10 conference games, the first thing I thought was, well, they better share the NBC dollars. But the other part of it is,
and they do, so
the more
important
games that Notre Dame plays against the ACC, the more the ACC reaps those benefits in terms of ESPN dollars. Meaning, if they play 5 road games instead of 3 against the ACC, those 2 extra Notre Dame road games yields more dollars for the ACC member institutions.
Yes.
Before we even get to the NBC discussion.
Yes.
So there would have been a monetary benefit to Notre Dame, but we all know it's BS. It's complete BS that this football thing gets to exist separately. So for me, that's headline number 1. Number 2 is confirming that you want to do a 10+1. I don't know why they released the matchups, maybe because they wanted more to sell, but I would think you just roll out the schedule rather than release those prospective opponents because what? It's like one more week, 10 days before you got to lay it out as to what the order looks like?
Yeah, I don't know either. I know that I was excited to see it. It was nice to see it lay bare before you, to look at that. To reiterate something Tom said, Notre Dame will play a 10-game conference schedule and be eligible to compete in the 2020 ACC Football Championship game, which rubs everybody the wrong way a little bit. But again, that money, it ain't nothing. And the 11 games are going to be played over 13 weeks. Each team having 2 open dates, just so you know the lay of the land.
Okay, 2 open dates.
You get 2 open dates. The ACC Championship game is scheduled to be played December the 12th or December the 19th, depending. They're in Charlotte. Okay. And, you'll have the top 2 teams winning percentage. It's conference winning percentage.
There is no Coastal, there is no Atlantic.
Right. And all 15 teams for the purposes of this discussion, will continue to be part of the ACC's bowl selection process. So should Notre Dame win the ACC football championship game, they would be eligible for the Orange Bowl if not selected as the college football playoff semifinal team. They're not going to win the ACC, but nonetheless, that's how that works.
Bowl games, what are these things that you speak of? Maybe the New Year's Six exists, but are you telling me like the Mako Bowl and the Little Caesars Bowl and the Bahamas Bowl are going to exist?
No, probably not. I do want to say this. I want to make note for, those sports that unfortunately got left out. It's awfully tough. Competitions in the sports of swimming and diving, indoor track and field, fencing, postponed until at least September the 10th. Fall competition in the sports of men's and women's golf. Obviously, this is a big one for me as I do a show and am good friends with Trey Jones, the golf coach at Florida State University. That was a heavy blow to be dealt yesterday, to hear that the ACC decided that men and women's golf is not going to happen. And I tell you one of the reasons that it's difficult, they're the only sport I can think of, I guess basketball does it a little bit, but they're the only sport I can think of where the fall matchups impact the spring rankings in your efforts to seed for a championship.
Well, and also the idea that golf is naturally a socially distant sport. As you could see, it was the first of the major sports outside of driving a car in a loop that could be played.
So the student athletes that play tennis and play golf, for example. By the way, it's not. I should make mention, it's not just men and women's golf. Men and women's tennis, rowing, lacrosse, softball, baseball, all canceled for the fall. Now, you hear that, you go, whoa, did you say softball and baseball? Yeah, but they're going to play their regular seasons. They're just not going to have anything in the fall.
Yeah, where we get the Ontario Blue Jays to come
That's just not
down
going to happen, right? So that's not that big a deal. That doesn't even really affect them in recruiting. Whereas the golf competition is real. The rankings, the points gained, the seeding, all of that plays into what happens in the spring. So they really lose out on a season. It's a big deal for men and women's golf. So I felt terrible for them, for the student athletes. I mean, think about this. You got Johnny Pack. Who knows what happens now with him? I mean, he's the number one ranked amateur for this new ranking system that they have with the university systems. Who knows if you ever see him in a Florida State uniform again?
You hope so. I mean, the Seminole Intercollegiate is usually held around February, sometime in February, and that would show off the new course. Yeah. Hopefully we have a full squad like we envisioned at that point. My whole thing would be is if the other conferences do that, it's not that big of a deal. But this is where you take a risk as a conference to declare this before anybody else does, especially in your region or Power 5 in your designation.
If nobody
level.
else does it, you get screwed.
Yeah, and if they do that, listen, the proverbial car wash that we held in high school, if these programs can do that to compete, then hold your booster car wash to see if you can get some money to put yourself in position to where you can compete with the other Power 5 conferences. If they don't do that, though, well, then we're all starting on the same foot as a golf program, the softball, baseball for fall ball, all that stuff.
Yep. Really quick, we did this in the first hour. We'll come back and do it again rapidly for those of you just hopping in the cars. A rapid-fire version, unlike the first hour where we went at length. A little W's and L's for you with the schedule because, damn it, man, if they're going to play, or at least they're going to show us a schedule that they want to play, we got to tell you whether those are W's or L's. It's next, Jeff Cameron Show. All right, we said we'd do it. Now, if you are just jumping on board of the Jeff Cameron Show on your way home from work, I hope you had a great day at work. I hope you did. I hope you were able to close that deal, maybe succeed beyond your wildest dreams. Maybe you got a that a boy from the boss or that a girl from the boss. I don't know. Maybe you did. I hope you did. I hope you're working to that end, that you're accomplishing your goals. But in the midst of all of that, you may have missed out on what is now, well, I think not only a firmly established and wildly popular segment on the Jeff Cameron Show, but one that is talked about the world over, and that is W's and L's. And Tom and I have been doing W's and L's for a very long time. We did a lengthy version in the 3 o'clock hour. This will be the abbreviated version just for those of you that missed that. But I would go back and listen to the other one too. I would. When I got home, I tell my wife, listen, I understand you need me to interact with our children. Perhaps you need me to take out the garbage or prep something for dinner. But I'm going to listen to Cameron and see what he and Tom had to say about W's and L's in that 3 o'clock hour.
And who knows, maybe we might be inspired to a different answer this time around. It may be that something happened the last 2 hours.
Well, it shifts. It does. We don't hold ourselves to any particular, W or L on a schedule. We don't do it in show. We don't do it week to week, month to month. It changes. It's out there to change. Sometimes, for example, in years past, say you were playing a 12-game schedule, I might have Florida State at 10-2, and I would have those losses coming to whatever 2 teams, and then the next time we did it, I'd have us also at 10-2, but 2 different teams beating us. It can change that way, or other times it can be we say, I'm feeling 8-4, and the next time we do it, I go, I'm starting to get a little worried here. I think 5-7 is on the table. So it could change radically. You just never really know, even within the show. So, Tom, I don't know. You may have a very different outlook right now.
We'll see.
Than you did in 3 o'clock hour. If you would, cue it up. Let's make it happen. L's wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? How many years ago now was it that we recorded that bit, you and I, when I did the W's and L's? Was that way back at the beginning?
It was the old building. It was this sound system, though. Remember those mics and stuff? You'd know it if it was on the other one. I got to find it.
You got the date in there, huh? I just remember we did it and we had so much fun doing it and we giggled about it the whole time. So that was always good. Especially partly because Matthew McConaughey going, how you doing? Is really, really good.
4.5 years ago, it was January of 2016 is the modified date I show.
So in no particular order, let's first of all qualify this and say, man, if they play these games, all of these games, all right, indeed. I mean, my goodness gracious.
We all win.
Yeah. At that point, I'll take it. I understand that if you're going to play the games, you want to win the games. I got that. You'll only remain temporarily satisfied that they're playing football. Yes, but as I'm fond of saying, wins and losses happen for a reason, and they tend to affect your emotion, your ability to reason even at times. So while you sit here today and I sit here today saying, hey, I'm grateful for the idea, the thought that they're going to play football, that they're going to forge ahead and make it happen somehow, some way, that's true until you lose 2 or 3 straight games. Then you're like, hey, man, are we going to win some football games? What the hell? So the staff was handed a raw deal. Our schedule just got more difficult than the previous schedule, and they were already up against it. They were already up against it with having been hamstrung because of a lack of practice, a lack of time together, COVID-19. With that said, W's, L's. Fire it up. Here we go. I'll start with Duke. Going to start with Duke. Win indeed. Next up, Georgia Tech. Win. Big win. Next up, NC State. Win. That's 3. We got us 3. Next up, Virginia. In fact, here comes Virginia. Win. Woo, we're at 4. Now it gets dicey. Did I say NC State?
Yeah.
Damn it.
You went out of order.
Purposely. I purposely went out of order. Here we go.
Yeah, you wanted the wins first.
Yeah, I did. North Carolina. It's a home game.
They were only 7-6
They were
last
7-7.
year.
They weren't that good. People had them winning a
6-7,
championship, whatever the hell they were. They weren't that good.
It's here. Not that matters. Maybe if it's September, it would matter, right? The heat matters more than the 25% or whatever number they're trying to throw out there and foist.
Yeah, I'm going to go with loss.
I'm going to go with win.
Oh, wow. Clemson, loss. Louisville, win. Yeah, all right. Miami on the road, loss.
Rousseau is the only reason. Loss.
Notre Dame in that dump of a stadium,
That dump of a town.
loss.
Loss.
Is that all?
Nope, there's Pitt.
Pitt here, hard fought, coming down to the wire. Knowles get us a win. That's a look at W's and L's. I don't even know what our total was.
Did we hit them all?
Clemson, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pitt, Virginia,
Yeah.
Duke, Louisville. Oh, Duke, win. Yeah, I did that first one.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
yeah, we
yep.
got them all.
Florida. Flex.
Wasn't on there. Conference only schedule. We'll see. Went on there. We'll have to go back and check that out later. Or go listen to the 3 o'clock hour. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's overwhelming when you consider what's on the docket over the next several days, starting right now. Basically, as we say goodbye, you'll be getting braced for some NBA basketball, of course, coupled with Major League Baseball, but then we have the return of the NHL as well. So this is, not to mention golf underway today. Every WGC event's no big. It's not small potatoes.
Right, exactly. It's a WGC event, which means the field is loaded, and then next week you have a major, the first one of the season,
Players,
oddly, or the PGA.
PGA, I mean,
and next weekend is just going to be. What do I do? I am setting up as many television-ish stations as I possibly can in my home right now.
Yeah, it's glorious. It's for a stretch with the dearth of sports and the frustration of the unknown. Being in limbo, I've said before, is a little bit more difficult, I think, to digest on a regular basis than having definitive plans or no plans, for that matter. Right? Having an understanding, intellectually understanding that there's just nothing there to save you. that hey, you don't have a game to look forward to on Saturday, they're not playing it, is actually easier to deal with than the carrot that is, well, we may see it again, who knows, you never know, and that's really frustrating, right? I mean, people like to know what they're up against. I'm one of those people. Even if it's negative, I like to know. Let's define our terms. So this is really a glorious moment because this is real. This is happening. And no matter what's going to happen with baseball, and we can predict or project all we want and debate, they're playing right now. Those games count. I watched them again last night, and I'll watch them again tonight. And they are going to play these games in the NBA. Utah is playing New Orleans at 6:30, and you can watch it. And LA and LA are going to battle one another tonight at 9 o'clock. That is going to happen. The hockey is underway. Exhibition hockey happened yesterday. We saw those men on the ice hitting one another, doing what hockey players do. It's all happening at a time while we already know baseball is back and the PGA has led the way. You've got 4 sports legitimately to sit back and watch today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Those are your days. Plan them out. You got them after having virtually nothing or very little.
So I haven't watched a second of the scrimmages. I am preparing myself and steeling myself that watching those games is going to be the most jarring between what I'm used to and what I see. Mm-hmm. Golf is no big deal. That's nothing. Baseball has been largely nothing. Like the white noise of the crowd underneath the broadcast. I mean, how often do you really look at people in the stands anyway? I mean, sometimes it's just for a funny reaction shot.
Right.
But you're looking at the strike zone, you're looking at the pitch, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that didn't bother me. Hockey, I think, does a pretty good job. Again, the crowd's not a part of the action very much. In basketball, the crowd very much is within the shot.
It'll be the most sterile of the bunch. The NBA, I've watched a lot of the exhibition games. I've watched what look like glorified practices. I've tuned in to see what that looks like because it's largely going to look exactly like it does when they count. The lighting is different in these small venues like this. You don't get the charge of the fans. Basketball, home court advantage, in terms of certainly collegiately, when we think about that, plays a big, big role. Only 5 guys on the court, 10 guys on the court at one time. It has an influence. The energy has an influence. The momentum that you see in a college basketball game is a real thing. You can argue it doesn't exist in football, but it certainly does in basketball. And I've always argued that as it pertains to college kids, it's very influential. Yeah. Maybe not as much in the NBA. But it will be fascinating to see. I just know this. The sheer athleticism of a Giannis, of a LeBron, that doesn't go away because there are no fans. You're still going to see the wow moments that NBA players provide you anyhow. Yeah. I mean, I'm forever in awe of the grace, the power, the speed of an NBA player. I've made the argument before that they may be our best athletes. You just don't come across people in the real world or in any other sport that are 6'8", 6'9", 260 that, I don't know what they would run in a 40, but it wouldn't suck, and then can jump out of the gym with a 40-inch vertical and they're not weak. I mean, you just don't see people who can do that. So that will still be on display. But it will be sterile. It will be, and you just have to embrace it for what it is.
Well, there are times where, I mean, obviously in college it's easy to hear because those arenas are smaller, but if you're on the road at Cameron and you're on an 8-0 run and you're Florida State, it's going to sound the same as what the NBA looks like because it would be silent in that building, and you'd hear the slam of the ball in the hand against the rim, things like that. When Duke does it, you can't hear it because the crowd is so damn loud.
Nuts, yeah.
One of the things I would have done, and we'll take a look at how they present it, but you know how the Lakers present the game? You could barely see past row 2 or 3 of the stands anyway.
You never can, yeah. It doesn't
looks
matter.
like a prize fight.
It's dark, yeah.
Same building for the Clippers, and you could see everything like it's a hockey arena. I'd present it like the Lakers do, so it's just kind of
I've always liked that anyhow.
into the void. Yeah.
Always liked it anyhow. One of the things as a kid that I thought was amazing, you bring up a great point, Tom. As a kid, when I would watch, there was no team in the state of Florida. I've brought this up many times before. When I was a kid, you watched and you rooted for the Lakers, the Celtics, the 76ers, right around the time Dr. J and Moses Malone became a thing. That was a big deal. So I had friends that were 76ers fans because of that. And that was really it. Now, I grew up in Tampa, St. Pete. So you had to adopt a team. The interesting thing is I'm old enough now, and we look back all the time, and I think, wow, that was a thing back then. People said that. People thought that. But the truth is, if you were a white kid, you largely rooted for the Celtics. If you were a black kid, you largely rooted for the Lakers. That's the way it was. And that's just because nobody had a team in the state to pull for. The Heat didn't exist, and certainly the Magic didn't exist. And so that's how that went. Now, I rooted for the Celtics for a very different reason, which I joke about all the time. And in retrospect, it's very funny. I rooted not because the Celtics were largely white. I rooted for the black guy that started. I loved Dennis Johnson. He was my man. And that wasn't because I was a progressive or forward thinking. It's because I thought I loved his game. He had a giant ass. He backed you down. And he was the only black guy I ever saw with freckles. And I thought that was cool. He had a ton of freckles, too, with red hair. I loved him. I just loved him. And he was silky smooth, silky smooth. Anyhow, so that's why I rooted for the Celtics. I say all that to say this. The way that the games were presented in the Boston Garden, that old rickety building, you could feel the influence of that arena. And it was pitch dark, like except for the parquet. And you looked at that and you saw that floor and you went, ooh, that's just tradition. That's awesome. That's Red Auerbach. That's Bill Russell. That's what it is, right? Loved it. And the glitz and the glam was in L.A., and you saw that. And the Diane Cannon's there in the front row with Jack and all that.
Sure.
But you're right. You couldn't see anything beyond that. It felt like a movie. Movie stars. It was presented as such, right? If you were on one of those first 2 rows, you were a major Hollywood producer or actor. Everybody else, maybe you were a politician or somebody there for the day. But
or an escort.
Or an escort, indeed. But for me, I think that you're absolutely right. That's how I would try to present these games. It would just be, like, in essence, floodlighting on the floor, and then everything else would be pitch black. I don't need to see that we're in the Y. You know, I don't need to know that, you know, I play that sometimes pickup games with my buddies.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
like
need that.
Staggered seating behind, you know,
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
players and the benches and all in a line. I mean, it looks awkward.
Yeah,
It looks-
presentation-wise, it's not good.
It looks like the WWE studio environment, you know, where they put the people when they're like supposed to watch the match, and they're
It's weird that you bring that up. I tuned into the WWE. I think it was maybe last night before. I don't. My kids have grown out of the phase. They don't care anymore like they did for that 2-year window where they loved it. I kind of missed when they loved that because I'd see the awe on their face and we got to go to the events and all that. Maybe it's good that they don't love it anymore because we can't go. But
maybe they will again, though. You could take them when they come back here to
Phases,
Tallahassee.
yeah.
It'll be a fun night if it's not something they watch every night.
yeah, so I didn't know, and forgive my ignorance, but we just all have more things to turn our attention to these days. I didn't know they were still presenting and doing their things. You know, I thought, how could you do that? The fans are such a big part of the presentation of the WWE. I mean, half the fun of the WWE is the intro. You know, the music, the guy comes out on stage, the fans with their stupid signs and rednecks who believe it, and they're all angry, and then he yells at them, and it's funny to see if it's a bad guy, you know. And that's my favorite part, especially if you've got a really cool intro. Like, you know, of course, the greatest of all time is The Undertaker. But if you have some grandiose thing like that, you don't really care about the fight. The fight's secondary.
The big splash, though, is Stone Cold. That's the biggest one. The broken glass.
Yeah, yeah.
People lose their damn mind.
Oh, they'd lose it, yeah. And he'd come in and slam the beer and do the whole thing. Well, so to me, anyhow, I figured they must have had to taken a respite of some kind. I didn't know. No. Their show must go on. I get it. They're way too much money.
No, and there were some kickbacks. I mean, this is, again, not political, just empirically true. If you look at who owns the WWE, ties to certain administrations and parties, I think the governor was in a position where if he could make it happen for the WWE, he was most certainly going to make it happen. And
so it's happening in Florida?
In Orlando.
Oh, I had no idea.
They have a studio set up in Orlando.
I didn't know that's where that was. So anyhow, I am watching, I guess it was last night. My kids were sitting down to eat dinner, and I sat with them, and I let them take control of the TV at that time. If we do the thing where we don't eat at the dinner table, then I let them do it.
They were deemed essential. That was the thing where it's okay, well, I get it. You want to welcome all sports down here, training facilities, do what you want to do. At the time with the information we had, that sounds reasonable. But to deem it essential, I was like, all right, well, you're not even going to say, this isn't even implication. You are essential, right. Undertaker. Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Advent Health brought to you by The Undertaker.
So point would be, I watched last night, oh, no, that doesn't work. The fans are really important in the WWE. In fact, they're the most important thing. I just realized it. I watched last night. It was last night before. Anyhow, I watched and went, this is ass. This is just ridiculous. It looks even, if it's possible, it looks even faker than I knew it to be. I don't know why. Maybe the fans are better able to drown out the obvious stomp on the mat or slap on the back to make it sound bad. When that's all removed, you're like, oh, well, this is ridiculous.
Well, you're watching for the fans. Also, the weird people in the stands, your crowd watching when it gets boring in the middle because you're like, oh, it's a tag match. He can barely reach his person again, and they have to stomp on the side and get everybody to clap. Yeah. Wow, look at this. It's the
same thing over and over again.
Yeah, there's one formula. It's like the playbook in We Are the Titans.
And you
Remember the Titans.
By the way, you know what's sad about that, and that really bothers me, because tag team matches in my youth were the whole thing, man. Mm-hmm. If you had Roddy Piper go out with Cowboy Bob Orton, there was going to be some crazy stuff that went down. I mean, first of all, there was going to be a lot of cheating to enrage the fans. And they didn't make it so formulaic. Now, they have always done the thing where, I got to get to you. Hulk Hogan trying to get the fans, and then, diving in.
He gets hit in the face, and he starts to hulk up, but he doesn't hulk up to fight you. He hulks up just to go, reach over to Ultimate Warrior
which is
or something.
Weird, yeah. But that's fine. I get that part of it. But, in the old days, man, it got sinister. It got weird. Somebody would break out, a steel pole out of nowhere, and they just club somebody half to death outside the ring. I mean, it was incredible.
The NWO would use a taser, like the old stun gun. So if the guy got whiplashed, somebody would talk to the ref, and then they'd tase him when he was in the corner.
Yeah. Look at this.
He'd fall down.
It was the hardest thing to understand as a child that they were just obviously intentionally goading you into that. I would get so mad if one of my favorite wrestlers were cheated. Damn it, how can he not see this? He pulled out brass knuckles. I mean, you just can't not count that. He hit him with brass knuckles. What do you mean you didn't see it? And I'd be 7 years old, and my mom was like,
That's true. The brass knuckles were still a thing in the 90s.
They used to break out brass knuckles. I'm like, what are we doing here? My man just reached into his shorts and pulled out brass knuckles.
The big thing other than the chair, the WWF, the WCW was very much old school in that way.
Yeah.
You'd have the brass knuckles. You'd have sometimes a blade.
A blade. Abdullah the Butcher.
You had the stun gun.
Yeah.
But then over in WWF, they had the kendo stick.
Because it makes such a loud sound. Yeah.
Oh! He got him with the kendo stick. Oh, my God, he's bleeding.
It's ridiculous. I was like, that doesn't even look like it hurts. Let's do probables. Here we go. Fired up.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Cubs, Reds, 6-10. Yu Darvish, 0-1 with a 6.75. Allowed 3 runs on 6 hits and 4 innings against the Brewers on Saturday. He sucked. Luis Castillo will go for the Reds. He had 11 strikeouts over 6 innings against the Tigers. Boy, the Tigers are garbage. But he got a no decision in that game. Yankees, Orioles. J.A. Happ going for the first time this year against the Orioles. Nice way to make your debut on the season. Here you go, J.A. You got the Orioles tonight. John Means, rookie all-star in 2019. Did you remember that?
No.
He was. He earned the O's opening day assignment this summer, but missed that start with an arm issue. They were good. Very typical Orioles. You get the one guy that made the All-Star team as a rookie. Big deal. He earns the opening day start. Can't go. Got arm soreness.
Gary Thorne has gone from the voice of hockey in America and also an ESPN mainstay on Monday Night Baseball to covering the Orioles the last 10 years.
I want to say Gary Thorne said something that was wildly inappropriate at some point.
Is that what happened?
I believe so. I'm not saying he was ostracized.
Was it bleep Doc Emmerich?
No, it wasn't.
I'm better than bleeping Doc Emmerich?
No. I think he said something dumb. Something politically dumb at some point. We'll have to look it up. I could be completely besmirching.
That's more penal these days. I don't know. Was it 10 years ago? He must have said something crazy.
No. I think you could get away with anything 10 years ago.
Well, no. I mean, short of Hank Williams, there really wasn't much of any recourse for anything about 10 years ago.
I think he said something asinine. I can't remember. We'll have to go back.
Don Imus. That's about it.
I don't think that's why he was ostracized. He wanted to do the Orioles games. He just couldn't have known that for the last decade they were going to be insignificant. Cleveland and Minnesota, Shane Bieber, Jose Barrios, who's my guy, but my God, did he get lit up like a Christmas tree last time. What are we doing out here?
That was 10 runs in the first inning, I think, or first two innings.
They weren't all on him. But
no, between the two teams, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were talking about over-unders, and I was like, looks like the unders
in
the play.
Yeah, it was 5-5 is what it was in the second.
After two.
Yeah. What are we doing here? Yeah. Red Sox, Mets. Both Sox are 2-4. Mets 3-3. Martin Perez, the lefty, with a 7-2-0 going tonight for the Red Sox.
Left like 15 people on base, like Martin would last night.
Stephen Matz going for the Mets. Does he know you do him perfectly? Meaning the guy you just did?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Royals, Tigers, Brady Singer, Ivan Nova is still in the freaking league, and of course he's pitching for the Tigers. Jesus. Tampa Bay and Atlanta, we've got Ryan Yarbrough. By the way, the Rays 4-2, the Braves 3-3. Max Fried going tonight for the Braves. Pitched around a couple of walks in Saturday's second inning against the Mets. Didn't surrender a hit before allowing a double and a triple on consecutive pitches in the fifth. That's how that went last time. Dodgers, D-backs, Ross Stripling, Robbie Ray. Hey! By the way, Ross Stripling feels like he pitches every night for the Dodgers. Mariners, Angels, Marco Gonzalez, Dylan Bundy. We've got the Padres and the Giants. Can't get enough of those Padre uniforms.
Marco Gonzalez.
I am Marco Polo. Dinelson Lamet going for the Padres. Kevin Guzman going for the Giants. And I guess postponed again, Phillies, Yankees. Are Phillies ever going to get to play again?
Tomorrow, if all goes well.
All right.
They had consecutive days, obviously, of the negative tests. And the Yankees are playing Baltimore, so they can't be playing Philly today.
That's right. By the way, Philadelphia would have thrown Zach Wheeler today. So off to a fine start for the Phillies. 1-0 with a 1-2-9. The Marlins and the Orioles would have played. Caleb Smith would have started, but alas, COVID. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. From the fears that are inside of me, you're the biggest part of me. Good work, Tom. Good work, Matthew. Good work to all of you. Stay in good spirits. Stay safe. Be kind to one another. Enjoy your evening full of sports. And, Tom, one last note as we sign off. What the hell is our lineup tonight? Okay. I mean, my goodness, we got everything.
So the Rays' victory over the Braves will be coming up next after this program, and then we will have the third, fourth quarter-ish of L.A. Clippers, L.A. Lakers, unless the Rays just pace the Braves in about 2 hours, 15 minutes.
They could.
We could catch the whole second half at that point, but we'll have basketball on the back end of baseball tonight.
Sports. Lots of sports. Live sports. Sports that count. They're on our airwaves right here. You are too. Thanks for being here. Be well. Good night. Talk to you tomorrow. Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Kind of a Redemption Thursday edition of the program, if you will. At least if you embrace what we saw yesterday, early evening. schedule coming out, if you're going to embrace that and say, all right, going to be played as is, no problems, let's take a look at the schedule and roll on Big River, which we'll do momentarily. I think if that's where your headspace, mindset, you can do it, Jeff, is, then, I'm with you. I'll do that. I'll play along. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you get to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. But if you do go back, get caught up at your leisure, we'll post all 3 hours wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can go find it there. And we do appreciate those of you who are kind enough and you feel so inclined to do so. Rate 5 stars, share with your friends and others. Certainly helps grow the show and expose the show to more people out there, which benefits us, not going to lie. You can email us if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameron show. Hello, YouTubers. I said YouTubers differently than I normally do. YouTubers.
As in YouTubers, as though you're tubing down a river.
I need to do that soon. That's next on the list.
You enjoy that?
I do. Of 6 feet apart for all of their members. Now, all the staff and all the coaches, they wear masks.